Why, hello there, and welcome.
They want us to think that we're an insignificant speck of dust, but let me tell you, we are so much more than dust in the wind.
At least 4 billion useless eaters will be eliminated by the year 2050.
I'm still waiting for somebody to show me gas pressure without a container.
I personally don't believe anything they say, right down to the God they claim they worship.
None of the math adds up.
You could stack up all their math books, all their science books, and even put all their degrees stacked up on top of that, and you still wouldn't be high enough to see the curvature.
This is exactly why grounding is so important.
We see too far.
We're just regular people who know we're being lied to. We're tired of it.
The bottom line is, there's only one choice left, and that's to dismantle this whole thing from the top down. Welcome to the Phone Booth Podcast. Please keep your arms and legs inside the phone booth at all times. We are not responsible for any lost or stolen souls, destroyed realities, or blown minds. I am Ted Theodore Logan here with Bill, Rufus, and Death, and this is our Halloween episode. And what better person to have on for a Halloween episode than Raven? What's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be part of the Halloween episode. Spooky is my wheelhouse, and so I'm happy to be here.
You're the spookiest dude I know. I'm just saying.
Is that like FBI related? You want to elaborate on that, or?
Dude, as soon as he said it, I was like, here we go. Here's another thing that people are going to think. They're going to think I'm part of the FBI now.
Oh, yeah, he's spooky, all right.
That's him. So, I know
There it is. Oh, I love it.
You got a lot of crazy stories. You can start with anything. I'd say more of your personal stories, because you know how people love to call bullshit on anything third party. So let's start with your personal stories. I have heard, and I know they want to hear, I want to hear the story about the black toddler in the cornfield or in the tall grass or whatever it was. That one I was like listening at work, and I was like, is there somebody in the other room? What the hell's going on, man?
Dude, I'm glad that one came off as, because when I say it, it sounds ridiculous. And I'm glad that it has an element of spookiness to it, because I'm like, is this spooky or is this just kind of like retarded? Because, you know, all right, I'll tell the story. I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, and I used to live in a small town called Carteret in New Jersey, and I had a gang of friends. I like to think that I had one of those last like classical upbringings, kind of like the Goonies, where we would just get in adventures. We'd ride our bikes during the summertime, from sun up till sundown. You know, and street lights coming on was my marker to go home. Mm-hmm. And me and my gang, my crew, we're in this little area of town that we called the Ramps, and it was a really small, maybe like the size of a city block, wooded area, deep in the trailer park, and it even had like a little bit of a creepy ambiance because it was next to a section of the trailer park that was just abandoned trailers, which was weird because we used to rummage through them all the time. We'd find the coolest shit, but they were like people just got up and left. Like drawers were filled with clothes, and I don't think this had any bearing on the story. It was just, it had a vibe to it, you know. It was creepy.
Yeah, so you're already creepy.
Yeah, already creepy. We're off to a great start. The foundation to creepy has been laid. We used to love going in there because who knows what you'd find in the drawer this time. And so we called this area in the woods that were near there, we called it the Ramps because, well, actually, we didn't really do it. It was some older generation. And the reason I say that is because even my stepdad knew about the place. He said he hung out there when he was a kid. So it was a bunch of ramps, dirt ramps. People had dug pits and built mounds, and you would take your BMX bike off of them. And we were kids, we didn't do a good job. I remember screwing myself up real bad. But right next to, or rather inside the ramps, inside the city block sized forest, not a very big one, right? We're not talking like an expansive woods, but you couldn't see the trailers if you got deep enough in there. So it was very isolated. And in there was a small stream. And growing along the stream or the creek side was tall grass. And we're talking like, I don't know, 6 feet tall or something. So well above a 12-year-old's head. And of course, we have to go in there and explore. So what we end up doing is me and my friends, we stomp paths. We lay the tall grass down with our feet and we create, sort of a haphazard maze inside the tall grass. So one day, my buddy Shane and I are walking through the maze while the remainder of our group of friends are on their bikes and they're on the ramps. And just to give a little bit of a context, I grew up, my house was like, Dr. Doolittle's house. My mother was huge into animals. When Steve Irwin, God rest his soul, when he passed away, it hit my family hard. My mother cried. Wow. I only had ever seen her cry when he died and when my dog died. And so we had, at any given time, 3-4 dogs, 4 or 5 cats, owls, tortoises. We had raccoons, salamanders, tree frog, every friggin' thing that you could think of. And some of it wasn't even legal. I'm pretty sure the tortoise was not. We had. So this is all to say I was very familiar with animals. A quick backstory for context. One day I was riding my bike with my buddy and some junkyard dogs squeezed out under the fence that we were near and they started running up to us. And my mom always taught me never to run from dogs because you trigger that chase, right? They're going to chase you. You're not going to outrun them. So what you have to do is kind of stand your ground and be scary and fight back. And so my buddy, I go, "Don't run, dude." But he starts pedaling and he's gone, which leaves me to be the one that the dogs are coming for. And I was young. I don't know. I was maybe 11 or 12. It's probably about the same age. And I picked up my bike above my head, my little BMX bike, and I screamed at them. And they went back under the fence. And that wasn't because I was brave. I just had a whole lifetime of like, dogs don't dominate you, you dominate dogs. Yeah. That was just my thing. So fast forward back or snap back to that story. We're in this tall grass and suddenly something starts, we're deep enough in there that we can't see our friends anymore. And something starts running towards us really fast. And we can't see it. The tall grass is too dense, but you can see the tall grass moving, sort of. And it's on us so fast. The only thing that I remember doing is sort of recoiling and grabbing my buddy. We just grabbed onto one another and stiffened up. That was it, man. That's all we did. And I imagine, I can't say for certain, right? It's been so many years. I imagine that I had the impression that it was a dog. But this thing is sprinting towards us. We recoil, we grab one another, and it's immediately now out of the tall grass and in front of us. When I say in front of us, I mean we were walking on these paths that we had created. And so as we're walking on this thing, suddenly now just ahead of us, whatever this is has burst out and is now in view. And I don't think we made any noise. I don't think we had time to react. And before we knew it, it was already continuing on its path off to the right side of the trail. So it crossed it. It made a T across the trail and kept disappearing into the other side of the tall grass. Now, I told you that I'm very familiar with animals, and the reason that I said that is because, sure, at 12 years old, maybe you can be mistaken.
Oh, for sure.
About what you think that you saw. But there are absolutes, and then there are speculations. So the absolutes are things that I definitively remember, and I trust myself at that age to, decipher what I'm seeing. And then there are things that I'm not too sure that I saw. So the things that I know I saw were right off the bat, the height. It was no higher from the ground than a toddler. I'm talking like a 4-year-old. Number 2, it was bipedal. So this wasn't well, if it was a raccoon, that's fucking terrifying and hilarious. If a raccoon would come running out on its hind legs at us. This was on 2 legs definitively. Number 3, it was black. So what I'm describing to you right now, we're talking bipedal, the height of a 4-year-old, black skin. I lived in a predominantly black neighborhood. So it was not a stretch for me to think that I saw a butt-naked black baby running through the woods. I'm 12 years old. So as I say this to you now, that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, but at that
as a 12-year-old, you rationalize it however you can. So it's the size of a toddler. It's got black skin. It's bald. I know that. It didn't have any hair. It didn't have any clothes, butt naked. And it was moving really fast, man. Yeah. And it didn't give a shit about us.
Really? So it didn't even stop and look at you? Like there's nothing?
No, dude. It blew past us like we weren't even there, but it was as close to me within 5 feet. Within 5 feet, we're talking 3-4 feet from me and my buddy, who are still recoiled and grabbing one another because this event happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just off running away. Like this thing was either running from something or running towards something. And it ends as quickly as it happens. And we run out of the ramps screaming. We run past our friends who are on their bikes looking at us like there's something wrong with us. We run out of the tree line, through the trailer park, down the street, all the way to the park. And for the longest time, I just told people that we saw a naked black baby. And it wasn't until I was like...
Totally normal to see in those parts, you know?
Right. So it wasn't until I was like 16 that I was retelling the story one day, just like talking to somebody like, oh yeah, I saw some crazy shit once. It was like this little naked black boy. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, wait, what? A naked black 4-year-old is
running that fast. Yeah,
through...
exactly. That's my thought. Like sprinting.
I mean, you can't look. I know that different races, maybe there's some athletic ability that you could say goes one way or the other, but this is far beyond that realm. There's no reason. The way I started to think about it was if I stripped, and even right now, I'm 33 years old. If I stripped ass naked right now and tried to run through the tall grass, as funny as the imagery is, I would not have success. There's no way that I could continue stride, that I could sprint the way this thing was sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I could, I suppose, if I just fucking like kind of balled up and ran as hard as I could, but
like you said, this is just
that is
grass
a tough
laying
task
down. This is just grass laying down. So you're still got to step through that onto the hard ground.
Care how strong you are. There's going to be some resistance, man.
So clearly the thickness of the grass and the difference between the top of that and the top of the ground was it wasn't any challenge for this thing. It was just flying.
We're talking river reed. You know that it's tan. It typically has a plume at the top.
Yeah.
And when that's snapped off really low to the ground, they're like little barbs.
Yeah.
Like, the weight of an adult stepping on that, your feet would be bloody by the time you got out of there, I'd imagine.
Like little bamboo shoots stabbing you in the foot.
Exactly. And also, even regardless of that, because you could start to make arguments about, well, this thing doesn't weigh as much. A child doesn't weigh as much, which is why they can get away with sort of big spills. Whereas right now, if I fall, who the hell knows what's going to happen to me? Is either I'm going to walk off a curb and have a good time, or I'm going to walk off a curb and roll an ankle and have a terrible time. It's just what happens as you get heavier and older. But I have a child. He couldn't do that right now at 8 years old. And he's easily twice the size of the thing that I saw that day. My friend who saw it with me. And I guess I kind of understand this. He doesn't even like talking about it.
Yeah.
If
Really?
you ask him to this day, I told you I've been podcasting for like 7 years. This story has come up because ultimately what I've always wanted to do was paranormal discussions, conspiracy discussions. And so Shane has come up across all the different work that I've done. And every time I reach out to Shane, he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't know what he saw. He gets very flustered. It feels like I'm bringing up something that upsets him, which is weird because I don't have that feeling at all. I'm like, dude, that was not a naked baby. And he's like, I don't want to fucking talk about it. So, but a child can't do that. I'm sorry, dude. Like I'm telling you, this thing was in full sprint.
Yeah.
Put it to you this way. If I were to, for some reason, had given chase, I would not have caught him. It was moving too fast. I would not have caught him. It happened so quickly. It was rushing towards us. It was out in front of us, and it was running away from us all before we could even think.
Mhm.
Did he have a
And-
better look at it?
So this is where the speculative memory comes in. And I'm perfectly willing to admit that my recollection, memory from that long ago is hard, man. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been,
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's for sure.
22 years. So the things that I think I remember, and once again, I want to preface this with I could be plugging in things into context that make sense to me. And I'm
Mhm.
perfectly willing to humor that. So the things that I think that I remember were pretty much threefold. It didn't have I didn't see a dick. I didn't see anything. Okay, it happened fast. Shit is crazy and chaotic. It's flapping around. Maybe you're not looking. Maybe if a animal's rushing to you, you're not looking at its dick, right? That's a potential.
Maybe.
You're looking at its head and its
Maybe.
face. Unless you're really studying it, you really want to know what it. I didn't see a dick, right? The head just was big and bald. And the baldness is something that I can speak to. I remember it was no variation. It was all
Yeah,
just a
just
naked
completely
in
bald.
every aspect. Yeah, I don't remember seeing hair. If it had hair, it was very short and barely a different color from its skin.
Yeah.
Now
Now, when you
its
say
head
black,
was big, and
do you mean what kind of black?
so this is something that is half speculative and half definitive. The definitive half was it was the color black. But not like how people describe shadow people and it's the absence of light.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not that. It wasn't pitch black out. There was light penetrating the canopy of the woods. I could see this thing. It was black, but the speculative part is, and this is how I remember it because I'm very familiar with the terminology, having grown up in a black neighborhood. This thing was. I want to say this is speculative, but it also really. I also really want to say this thing was super ashy,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
dry and leathery.
Wow.
So, with that story, there's only one little extra detail that I can toss on top because when these strange things happen, there's not much left to talk about. You know what I mean? It's just kind of
Yeah.
it happens to you. You're left kind of looking around, and it's a fun story to tell sometimes, but it's a dead end story.
Yeah.
Because it's not a story; it's an experience. So I couldn't control that it didn't get wrapped up nicely.
Yeah.
But I found out years later, and for folks that are listening, you can go back and Google this yourself. I think it's the 2001 or 2002 Carteret, New Jersey UFO sightings. So during the year of either 01 or 02, above the McDonald's and the Turnpike in the center of Carteret in New Jersey, from daytime all the way until the sun went down, several objects just hovered in the air, and they moved, in weird little patterns.
Mm-hmm.
They were there long enough for local news to show up and catch the recordings, and for some individuals to have stood there from daytime until nighttime, just looking up and staring at him, not knowing what to make of it. It drew crowds. It never did anything. Eventually, they just blinked out and disappeared. But for hours, they were there and people were watching them. So I don't know that there's any correlation there. That requires a lot of speculation, right? Was there a mission and one of them just fucking had to get back to the craft? I know he was running in the opposite direction of the turnpike. We were well away from there. So maybe there's no correlation. And ultimately, look, man, maybe for some reason I experienced someone's lost child. Now that brings a lot of questions too, right? It's like, why wasn't this kid? We were kids too. Yeah. You're scared and alone in the woods. You run across some other children. You're going to stop. And
but that's a good point. That's a damn good point. Like, what if he just got dropped off, so to speak, right? And he's just hauling ass in the direction that he knows how to get home, and nothing mattered. Like, I guess I could, if I was that age, and I would only know one thing: to run as fast as I could to where I knew was home, right?
Right.
But that's
go back
wild,
to the newspapers from that time and see if there's any missing or recovered small black children.
Well,
that's the only way you'll ever know.
Element that I don't think I've ever shared this. Around the same time, I had a best friend growing up. His name was John, and one day John and I are walking to the ramps. Like I said, there's a trailer park there. We're walking through the trailer park. Mm-hmm. John describes this moment that I have no recollection of. And like, look, I get it, man. As soon as this happens, I'm like, is this missing time? Like, what's going on there? But that's only because of the realm that I'm involved in. But John says that he called me 4, 5, 6 times in a row, like, Dave, look, Dave, look, Dave. And I just kept walking as if I couldn't hear him and didn't care. And what he was trying to show me was a small naked black boy standing in the middle of the road, staring at him.
Wow.
Just standing and staring. And he's confused. He's trying to get my attention. And I'm just walking. And this kid is just standing there. Now, once again, who the hell knows? That could have been anything. A kid could have just slipped out of the trailer, fucking naked, and then just stood around and didn't know what to do, or who knows? There's any number of explanations. But
you have missing time.
It's not that it was missing time. It's that I didn't hear him at all. And he tells me, like, I was definitively calling you. We were walking shoulder to shoulder. He stopped walking because he saw a naked black kid, and he turns to call me, and I keep walking. And look, man, what 12-year-old is hanging out in the streets and isn't going to make the biggest deal in the world about a naked toddler? Like, that is going to be a field day.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
So the idea that I didn't hear, and John is not the type of person who, he doesn't have ghost stories. He doesn't have anything like that. He's like a really normal dude. And this is just one of those things that he's never let go ever since we were children. And like I said, he was part of that Goonies upbringing with me. He was my best friend. We were biking from dawn till dusk. And this is just one of those things where he'll still tell that story sometimes when I talk to him about how I just wouldn't turn around and I wouldn't listen to him and I wouldn't hear him. And I remember that day. Like, I remember getting further down the road and him being like, yo, did you see the naked black kid back there? But we were already so far gone.
Is this before or after?
It's just weird that
if you said it earlier, I apologize, but was this before or after the original story you were telling?
I want to say after, but I have no real bearing on that. I'm not sure.
Okay. But
this all took place in the same summer. So I think the Carteret UFO sightings were in September, and this all took place leading up to it. So this was the summer of, this probably would have been the summer of 01 or 02. And all these events took place the same summer. So, like I said, with the nature of these stories, everything is just speculative and you don't really have a way to compartmentalize it. It's funny because right now I'm doing a show and I'm building, as far as I want, I'm building all sorts of apparatus around shit that you can't explain and has no bearing. But this was very much just that. It was just a crazy story. And it was weird too, because he would tell me the story and you could tell he was emotionally wrapped up in it. He was like, you would not listen. I was calling you. I was screaming for you to turn and you just kept walking. And I didn't have that experience at all. So he's got all this energy and I'm just like, that's crazy, man. Because there's nothing for me to do with that information whatsoever. But for him, it was a really bizarre moment. So are they connected? Are those three things
That's
all
what I
part
was
of the same
wondering,
thing?
because you didn't really react like it instantly going back to that memory and connecting the two. So I was wondering if that may have been before that happened. You know what I mean? Like if I know if it was me or any one of us, we would have been like, and you'd instantly freeze and be like, holy crap.
I saw a black
You know?
infant running before, and now you saw one?
Right.
That's weird.
Right.
Is it a heavily
mean-
like slavery thing? Is there a lot of slavery roots going back there? Like the history of the area or what?
I know it's an old town, New Jersey being part of the original like 13 settlements. There's a lot of
Right.
old creepy kind of crap like that. I don't know. I don't know much about Carteret. Carteret was like both the hood and the suburbs. And I was lucky enough to spend most of my time in Carteret in like the suburbs, having like a really wonderful childhood. Where a lot of my life I was born and raised in a terrible place filled with like violence and everything, and then I moved to this nice place, and then I moved again to a terrible place. Yeah.
E-Town.
Elizabeth. My mom tells me a story about a dude getting beat to death in front of the house with a baseball bat. I was like a baby when that happened though. But
yeah, I've been to Elizabeth.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's rough.
I mean, it's beautiful in the way that there is a lot of historical architecture in Elizabeth. I lived in a house on Rawway Avenue. Here's a real quick story because I know we got a lot of stuff to get to, but I've told this story before. I don't think you guys have heard it. For a long time, I thought I was going to be schizophrenic as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because when I was living in this house in Elizabeth on Rawway Avenue. Now, Rawway Avenue is the main avenue going through Elizabeth. New Jersey is one of the original 13 colonies. Elizabeth is one of the oldest towns in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Rawway Avenue was the first road in Elizabeth. My house was one of the first houses ever built on that road. It was a terrifying house, dude. It looked like when you're a baby and everything seems bigger, and then you revisit a place and you're like, this fucking doesn't feel that big anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This place looked like a castle, and it had gargoyles kind of guarding the entrance on either side of the stairs. Ivy stretching all up. It even had a sort of a spire, we had a spiral staircase and a separate tower on the house that came to a peak. And
So you lived
on
in
that
the
peak, there was a balcony going around it. It was a weird fucking house, man. So the quick story I want to tell is I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. My aunt, who we later discovered is schizophrenic, and so this all plays into why I was afraid. And I think I've beat it, and I should be just fine.
Past the age now.
Yeah, because there is an age. I think
Yeah.
it's like if you're prone to schizophrenia, it will
Early
if it doesn't
30s or
manifest by like
something.
28.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you've made the cut. So I'm pretty sure I've made the cut. And if I haven't made the cut, I'm equipped enough to deal with it. Like if it happened right now, I'd be like, fucking A, man, check that shit out. So my aunt, she's sick. She's not feeling well, and she's sofa ridden or sofa bound. And I'm there with her 2 sons, and she asks me a strange request to go and get the silverware drawer. And I oblige. I walk down the hallway, and we had the hallway that led to the kitchen was a black carpet, and there was no light in it. We had a black Labrador Retriever. It was so dark in that hallway that people would often step on her, and then she'd stand up, and people would fall. You couldn't even see her in there.
Wow.
She just blended in with the carpet. So I'm going down this hallway, and I go and I start to try to fish the drawer out, which is difficult because I'm 6 and it's fucking filled with silverware. This is a weird request, but I managed to get it out. And as I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm telling you guys, this fucked me up for many years of my life, where like I didn't want to tell anybody that like, hey, dude, any fucking moment I could lose it. Like, I don't know. Some shit happened to me when I was a kid. Might just happen again. And now I'm fine with it because I feel like I've gotten over the hump. But for a long time, I did not want to even discuss it. So as I'm walking with this silverware drawer, suddenly I hear a woman's voice. And when I say hear, I internalized a woman's voice. I did not hear a woman's voice with my ears, but I heard a woman's voice inside my head. And it was so crystal clear. It was like, if it wasn't for the fact that I knew I didn't hear it with my ears, it was the equivalent to somebody being right up against your ears and speaking in a normal tone. And this woman said, she goes, "You're going to drop it." And like, that was it. She just told me I was going to drop it. She was indifferent. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sweet. She wasn't pleasant. She was just giving me some information. This bitch was like, "Hey, dude, heads up, you can drop it." And so as soon as she says that, suddenly like my whole world begins. I'm standing in this pitch black hallway, and the most immense feeling of vertigo hits me, and my vision twists as if like I'm in a fun house and I'm in a tunnel and it's twisting, and I end up dropping the silverware drawer, and it makes an incredible amount of sound, snaps me out of it, and my aunt is furious about it. But it's another one of those stories where it's like, and then fucking nothing.
Wow. That's pretty wild, though. I could totally. I'm like visualizing every step too. You know what I mean? Because I've been through so many crazy things as well. That's why I can relate to that.
I was just gonna say there's so many things I want to ask you, but I also want to switch it up a little bit since I know you're a podcaster too, and I want Bill to tell a story, and you fucking ask him like as if this was yo podcast.
Let's go,
Bill. Get into it.
Before we do that, does anybody have shorter ones? Because you're gonna realize in about 5 seconds after I tell you what I did for a living,
this shit's gonna get real.
It's gonna get real. Okay.
Death. How about you, or Rufus, whoever?
Let's see. I don't have any that are like very short and don't involve like drugs, so I can't even say that they're...
I'm gonna say, as one of the rulers of hell, that's highly disappointing, dude. You kind of just seem gay wearing a black cloak now. If you ain't got any good stories, dude.
You don't have like stories from some of the disembodied souls that you shepherded to the underworld.
When you collected a Rockefeller soul, what happened?
Those don't get collected.
They just get get recycled. Is that how it works?
Rufus, you got anything?
Oh man, I'll just sit back and listen to you guys. I've lived a pretty sheltered life, so.
All right, so before we get into his, I guess, like, I've had a little ghost experience. I mean, once when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, and I was highly skeptical, atheist my whole life. I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in any of that crap. And we were like, somebody was like, "Hey, let's go to the park and play with the Ouija board." Because there was this park we always hung out at that closed at, sundown, and you could do whatever you wanted if you came in the back way. So
great idea.
So I was totally skeptical, totally messing around. And like, we were doing the Ouija board, and it told a full story. I'm not going to lie. So at the time, I just assumed it was someone screwing around. So I was laughing at it. Like, the story of some prince that killed himself because he couldn't have the woman he wanted. Literally, that's how long we were there, that this was all spelled.
How long are you playing with this Ouija
a couple
board?
hours, dude. It was a long time. The whole time. What?
Sorry to interrupt, but do you think you have to be more open-minded to these kind of things?
I don't know, because I was totally closed-minded and I didn't believe any of it. Like the whole time.
See, that's how I was a majority of my life too. So I was wondering, I don't have a lot of spooky stories like this, but since you're saying you were closed-minded to it too.
I thought it was total bullcrap. I was there laughing. I assumed 100% it was one of the people there messing around with it. But in the back of my mind, I was like, damn, someone here should become a writer when they grow up, because this is a good-ass story. But like, I will say that it was the middle of summer because we were out for summer. That's the only reason I was allowed out that late. And it was like 60 degrees where we were. We were like in a racquetball court, or Yeah, racquetball court. There was like 4 of them back to back, so it was concrete all around you. We were sitting in the corner, so no security guards could see us drinking or whatever and doing this, and it was cold as shit right there. Like, you could literally see your breath. If you walked away, you couldn't. And I was like, all right, that's weird. Still skeptical at this point. So we're like, oh, this is getting weird. Let's leave. We didn't close it out or anything. We were just like, let's go. So I walked back to my house, and me and my friend Alex at the time were like, oh, that was funny. I don't know who it was. We'll talk to them later and find out who it was fucking around, blah, blah, blah. So we're sitting in my bedroom talking about it, and I had a closet that didn't have a door on it or a curtain or anything. It was just wide open, and the clothes were hanging in there. And we're sitting there laughing about it, and while we're sitting there, the clothes in my closet go shh, and just slide over to the other side, and we're like, I'm gonna go sleep in the living room. Like, we're both teenagers, like, trying to sound tough, and we're like, hey, you want to go sleep in the living room and watch some cartoons or something? Like, so being a totally skeptical person, I know what I saw, and I wasn't on drugs or anything. It was just those fucking clothes slid across the closet. I know that happened, so something happened.
Did you have, like, were you creeped out leading up to it?
I mean, when we were in the room talking about it, we were kind of like, we were creeped out, but we were trying to seem like we weren't, because we were 2 teenage dudes, like, trying to not sound like the pussy in the group, you know? But we were both freaked out, because if we weren't, why were we talking about it, you know?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so yes, there was a creepy vibe, and yeah, so it happened. I don't care what anyone says, it happened, you know?
And that was
Was
it.
that guy still your friend? Would he still come over your house?
Oh, after that, yeah, we were cool for years after that. Not anymore, but we were cool for
dude.
years after that.
Is that Bill? Bill, you're an idiot, dude. What are you doing?
No, I don't think we had any creepy experiences together, actually. But
I would have got grounded for a year if I would have got caught playing with a Ouija board.
Sounds like your parents are smart. I wouldn't let my kid. I mean, I wouldn't screw with the Ouija board. When you were saying, do you think that if you have a belief around it, you're more susceptible to it? I almost think it's the opposite.
Yeah,
I
if you're
think
naive to it.
what these things, yeah, because then you're not proactive and you're not seeking resolution, and you're not, you're willing to ignore it despite it possibly, like, a lot of these entities, I believe that they feed off of, and this isn't my own ideas, but that they feed off of negative energy, fear and sadness and anger and things like that. And if you're not proactive and you don't have some sort of spiritual path to making this stop, well, then all you're going to do is 2 things. You're either going to ignore it, or when you can't ignore it, you're going to be fucking terrified. And that's a perfect recipe for these things continuously coming back.
They
it's
feed
like,
off fear, man.
scare them.
Feed off fear.
Yeah, fill them with fear, eat that energy, and then they're not even going to do anything to make you go away, because they're struggling even believing. So I think that, to answer your question about whether or not belief has anything to do with it, I almost think that being a non-believer in the right circumstances is more advantageous for sort of an entity than being a believer, because as we'll get into later on, I've had experiences, and luckily I wasn't in denial about the reality of the spiritual realm, and so I had recourse. And so I think if you don't have recourse and you're not a believer, I think things like that can kind of chip away at your life, and you'll never attribute a lot of the things that are going on to some sort of dark entity, because there has to be a logical, grounded reason and reality as to why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And meanwhile, these things are just at a buffet.
Yeah. And I will say that shortly after that, I'm not saying I fully believe it's connected. It was probably also part of the age of being a teenager, but shortly after that, I made some of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. And, like, they seem like a great idea. Who knows what's connected and what isn't. I'm just saying, it wasn't like right after that I became this great person. Like, shit kind of spiraled, you know? But so
sometimes you got to go low before you can get up.
That's right.
And I will
Plus,
say,
you're a teenager anyway.
Yeah, I know. You make horrible mistakes. So also, even before that, something with, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. or not on a limb, I'm going to say what I believe. I don't believe that anything comes from other planets. Raven, I know you're kind of on the fence with Flat Earth. That's totally cool. Just the fact that you have an open mind, you gain my respect. But I don't believe that anything comes from other planets. I do believe that what people say are alien experiences are real and explainable by either demons, as in aliens, or extraterrestrials being people from outer lands, possibly experimenting or whatever. But I will say, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because on, I think, your very first podcast, you mentioned, and I'm going to be honest, known my wife a long time, I didn't remember this story to tell her until I heard on your podcast that you said the first book you read was Communion. And I was like, holy shit, that was the first book I ever read at 15. And you said it was like at 15 or something too. And I was like, God damn, why would I have read that? And then all of a sudden this memory opened up, and I'm giving you full credit, dude. This memory opened up of why I even read that book to begin with. And so I want to say 13, 14 somewhere, I started having these dreams.
Well, Ted, can you, for the audience, can you explain a little bit of what Communion is?
Yeah,
Communion,
because that's a fucking bizarre book.
I forget his name. You remember his name, right? What's his name?
I'll give you a real brief overview then, just for folks listening. The book Communion is by an author named Whitley Strieber. They actually did a film rendition of it starring Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I watched that too.
Casting.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
So basically the idea is that Whitley has spent a long time accumulating firsthand testimonies of alien abductee victims. And his job in the book, he's made it, is drawing correlation between one story to the next. In other words, highlighting key details that seem to repeat themselves.
Yeah, people who have never met each other telling the same exact details. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. All right. So folks got that. It's a great book. You should check it out. There's so many testimonies in it, and it'll freak you out a lot. But I know where Ted is going with this, and this is going to roll into some really interesting shit. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason I read that book is because I had a friend at the time who was quite a bit older than me, actually. He was like a friend of the family, and he was super into UFO stuff. And I thought it was complete nonsense. And I started having these dreams of so my grandparents used to live in this condo complex in their later years. And so if you went to the back of the complex, it was like this part where you could dip around the fence, and it led to where a Kmart was. So we used to go over there, there was a canal, but the fence didn't go all the way to the canal, so you could scoot around it. And that used to be the shortcut. But so I started having these recurring dreams of being with my friends, like you said, at that Goonies age, going out and doing crazy shit, like past when the sun's down, you got to go home, but this last thing you're going to do, and going around. And I mean, we used to do this in real life too, but the extra part never happened in real life. So I had these dreams about ducking around this fence and getting into the Kmart parking lot and seeing these UFOs in the sky, and just remembering seeing a super bright light and then nothing. I don't remember anything after that. I'd wake up.
These are dreams?
I assume they were dreams. So one day I was, your teenage years, you're trying to bulk up. I was working out with my brother, and he was like, "What the fuck is that on your back?" And I was like, "Oh, all right, whatever." So I go to look in the mirror, and there's these perfect circles. They're not, I would say maybe an eighth to a quarter of an inch in circumference, so you're looking at them, but they're in the perfect pattern of a giant triangle. And I'm like, what the fuck? That must be, I don't know what that is. It must be some rash or something. So I'm looking through that Communion book, and I see the exact same images in that book. And I'm like, go look it up. You can see it's in that book.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, that is the same pattern that was on my back. And I was trying to rationalize, find any other excuse for this. I don't know, maybe when I take a bath, does the bath mat pattern look like that? No, we don't have
These are
Like,
welts?
No way. Yeah, were they like
no,
indentations? or...
they weren't bumps. They weren't sucked in. The skin wasn't any different at all, except it was it looked like someone had cut out that pattern on a piece of paper and covered the rest of my body and tanned me for like an hour and then took it off.
What?
That's it.
Oh,
They
that's-
were just a different
They were
color. That's it.
Were they red or was it just like tan?
It was just maybe slightly red. Maybe like I have olive complexion, so I don't get sunburn, so I don't really know what my skin would look like sunburn. But it was
Right.
like if you had a farmer's tan, like the rest of my back looked like the top of the sleeve, and these spots looked like the lower sleeve.
What?
And
That's
then
crazy.
and
How
it
long
happened.
did it last
Unsettling.
for?
They disappeared, then they showed back up, and they did. And I can't tell you for sure if the disappearing and showing back up coincided with my dreams, because like how Raven was saying, like when you're young and you're thinking back now, I'm 41 years old, thinking back to 12, 13, like I
Yeah.
can't tell you a timeline, but some shit went down. Something happened.
Yeah.
And they disappeared and
that's-
came back and disappeared and came back and then never happened again.
Wow.
Yeah, when
That's
you're dealing with
crazy,
memories like
man.
that, I'm just telling a story. Like we're just telling stories of a story. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember the
Right.
event.
Yeah.
I remember telling the story enough that I
Exactly.
could remember the details. So yeah, it's squirrely, man.
This
but that
was
is
a little
do you
different in
remember-
that way though, because I honestly, I'm not bullshitting. I didn't remember this until I heard you mention communion. I was at work listening to your podcast and I was like, all these memories started rushing back and I was like, holy shit, I've never even told my wife this. I've never even told Bill this, and I've known him for
I was gonna
25
say
years.
this is the first for me.
So that made it all rush back. So this isn't like this particular one. I definitely know what you're talking about, but this particular one isn't like the memory of the story. This one's the memory of the events of reading the book, seeing the picture. Like you said, you saw the picture in the book, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So it's there. I didn't make this up. Like this happened. So something
Crazy,
Yes.
man. I mean, speaking of memory, you know, water has memory, and it's been proven, and our bodies are 80% water. So, you know, I mean, you know, somehow maybe that transferred into your skin. I don't know. It's
Who the hell
unexplainable. All you
knows?
can do
It's
is
weird.
speculate, to be honest.
That's a cool perspective though, because yeah, like maybe that made his hearing that. You know how you hear things that trigger and like your skin crawls, they say, or whatever. You get that
smells
feeling.
and sounds.
right?
Freaking
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Smells, yeah.
Yeah.
perhaps that
Smells is a
could be
big
the
one.
water in your body and all these other things happening all at once to trigger that memory, and your body, you know what I mean? You go back
Oh,
to
yeah.
that moment.
I don't know,
and
but
it-
all I
Mhm.
can say is thank you, Raven, because I literally had completely forgotten that memory until you mentioned that book, and I was like, damn, oh yeah.
I don't know if you should be thanking me for that memory.
No, man, I love
It's
stuff
crazy
like
how
that.
you can store your memories away like that, and then
It
something
is.
triggers
It's
it,
crazy.
and you know you didn't even know
And
that
then
thing
boom.
existed anymore, and boom, all of a sudden,
It tells you that
It's right back
it's all
there.
still inside you.
Yeah,
You just
it's
need
there.
the right
Yep.
thing to bring it up. Ted, do you remember? And maybe you don't because it was actually a really small part of the book, but it was the very ending. There was something that Whitley said was the key to understanding all of what's going on. For folks who don't know
need to
what the
go
book
back
is,
and read it
basically he
again.
starts. Yeah, he goes into a theory about how there is the goal is hybridization, bridging the gap between us and them for some reason. That was
Mhm.
very much what he thought the goal was. But in the end, and dude, you gotta, from my perspective, right? Damn, I haven't even told the story. So we'll get into the story. This book is very meaningful to me because
Yes.
it basically has a shit ton to do with my family, and they've all had these experiences. But in the end of it, I think I was 16 when I read this book, and he goes, "There is a symbol, and if we could understand the symbol, it is the key to
Oh, yeah,
understanding
yeah, I
everything
do
about
remember
this."
that. The symbol. I don't remember
Yeah.
what it is. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
There it is.
I picked and poked that on myself when I was a homeless kid.
Man.
So 16, 17 years old, I became homeless. That's around the same time that I read this book. And I don't remember why I did it. I never. So for the audience who's just listening, I have a trinity on my hand, like a holy trinity, the 3 interlocking circles. I literally was sitting in an abandoned house with a homemade tattoo gun, flipping through a book of symbols and trying to just do. I did this thing where I was like, I'm gonna flip through the pages randomly and put my hand on something, and whatever it is, I'm fucking tattooing that because I was an idiot. I was so stupid.
Oh, dude, I got some
Dude, can we
tattoos
just
I
stop?
regret too. Don't worry.
Dude, we have to stop for a moment and just appreciate the stupidity of 17-year-old boys.
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievable how
No.
just all hormones and retard. That's all. That's it. Just retard juice and hormones. That's what you pour into our gas tank, and that's what made us go. 17-year-old dudes are just bottom of the barrel. I mean, thank God that we made it past that.
Oh yeah.
Most
But
of
yeah,
us.
so yeah, most of us. But yeah, so I'm reading this book, and at the end of it, they're like, it's the symbol to understanding this, or the key to understanding this phenomenon is the symbol of the Trinity. And I'm like, holy shit, dude! Like it's on my hand, and I'm fucking like, I'm totally blown away. But yeah, that whole thing, Ted, is just.
Dude, if it's for nothing else,
mean-
it explains why immediately the first time we talked to you, I was like, I feel a connection to this dude. Like, this dude's
Yeah,
all right.
well, did you?
And that was
a part in the book
before I
where-
heard any of that. But
Yeah, there's a part in the book where he talks about people like meeting one another where they previously only knew each other from like regressive hypnosis sessions about being on a
Yeah,
craft, and there
yeah.
was somebody that they saw that was like familiar,
and they just
then they actually
knew.
end up meeting that person in real life, and there's this like really bizarre connection to it. I think my my grandmother was going through that, but I don't want to step on the story, so we'll cross that bridge
No.
when
Why
we-
don't
when we
you
come to
tell
it.
how this same
Yeah.
book we were just talking about is important in
Okay.
your life too? Because that's how it hit me. I was like, holy shit.
So, when I was a kid, when I lived in that house in Elizabeth that I talked about earlier, I lived there with my grandmother. By the time I had the episode of hearing a woman's voice in my head, she had already passed away. And she was very much like a mother figure to me because my mom was busy going to night school. So she would work in the day, night school in the evening. And so I was being raised by my grandmother until she passed away. And after she passed away, I moved to Carteret. So in Carteret, my mother is talking to a new guy. She's basically my stepfather, and we live there. We move in with him. And his mother is, for all intents and purposes, my grandmother. Her name was Barbara, and she was like salt of the earth, like
Yeah.
moral compass, just unbelievably wholesome woman. Although despite how wholesome she was, she seemed to have no reservations telling like an 8-year-old some of the most horrifying fucking stories that anybody could ever hear.
It's awesome.
So the nature of the stories was that she would, this is going to sound familiar to a lot of people, she would wake up in the middle of the night. And this is stemming from childhood to adulthood. She'd wake up in the middle of the night and she would be paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And she would be struck with an immense fear, and she'd quickly realize that somebody was in the room with her. And the way that she would describe this somebody is having a sort of duster coat, maybe like an old detective's coat or like a Western style jacket,
Mm-hmm.
and a brimmed hat. Very much like those signs that you would see for a neighborhood watch. You ever
Oh,
see
yeah,
those signs and it's like the
yeah.
silhouette of a man?
This neighborhood
white eyes.
protected by Neighborhood Watch, the friggin' trench coat
Yeah, well,
and the hat.
apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, those neighborhoods are protected by Hat Man, who's
Yeah.
a paranormal entity. But
Spy versus spy, I think it is.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Oh, there it is.
yes, spy versus spy is a good way of describing it.
Mhm.
So, and for those of you listening on the Ravens Watch, I've had a couple of experts in the field, authors who have written books on this
Oh yeah.
phenomenon of sleep paralysis.
It's
And they've gone in
everywhere,
pretty
man.
deep about. Yeah. So she tells me these stories. One in particular really sticks with me. It's when she was a child and she woke up in the middle of the night. She's paralyzed and she feels a presence in the room, looks over, and there's this man. And he never does anything. He just stares. And he doesn't go away either. So oftentimes she would just fall asleep, waiting for him to go away with her face under the covers. And one morning at breakfast, she's talking to her sister and she says, I saw him last night. and they start to have a discussion because her sister also saw him. So now you got two individuals, same bedroom, see the same entity. And as they're discussing it, their mother overhears, and she chimes in and says, I saw the same thing, right, in a separate bedroom. Whoa. And you have to imagine, to even divulge that to your kids, it's got to be like a real fucking thing.
You got to be concerned
because you don't want to feed into it. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, these things, they happen all the way to her adult life. She's a 60-year-old woman, and, you know, her recent story of them was only like 5 years or something before that. So now, fast forward to when I'm 16, 17 years old, and I'm hanging out with my aunt, my great aunt, who is my grandmother who passed away. It's her sister. And she's telling me that my grandmother was troubled. And when she was younger, she would have these episodes, she called them night terrors, where she would wake up, be unable to move, and there would be the presence of small shadow people everywhere around her room.
Wow.
And a light would appear in her window. It would rise up from the bottom, and it was this unbelievably bright white light. And she would struggle in the sleep paralysis until she was finally able to scream, and her mom would come running up the stairs, and like clockwork, as soon as she opened the door, the light would disappear in the window, effectively making her look like a child
like
who's
an idiot,
just having a tantrum.
Yep.
So she accompanies this story with, oh, and she read a book, and the book troubled her so much that she begged your mother, my mother, not to read the book. So,
and what book was that?
I wonder. So I go to my mom and I tell her, hey, Grandma told you there was a book that really upset her and she told you not to read it. And she goes, oh, yeah. Communion by Whitley Strieber. Just like that. Just gives it up. No problem at all. She never read the book. My mom never found
no
it
ear pulling, no
to,
nothing.
Nothing at all, dude. It was so easy. And so I don't have any money because I'm 16, 17 years old. I go to Barnes & Noble's and I shoplift this book. And I don't know what the statute of limitations on it, but please, Barnes & Noble's, don't come for me.
6 years.
But
Allegedly.
Okay, awesome. So I'm good.
Yeah.
If anything, I'll buy the book now. It's fine. So I read the book, and Ted, I was talking to you in DMs, and I was saying that I was like, I never went out of my way to read a book in my life.
Exactly.
I was an idiot. I had no desire to read anything.
Yep.
This book, I read it. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, it was the very
it's funny,
first
even
book
to this day,
I read on my own too. The very first.
Yeah. And to this day, when people say, like, you ever just read a good book and you can't put it down? If I forget about communion, I go, what are you, a fucking nerd? What are you talking about? A book you can't put down? I could put down so many. I could throw books into a fire right now and not feel any type of way. But communion, that and the I Am Legend book, I read that too. I'm reading this book, and it is describing not only what is happening to my biological grandmother, but also what is happening to the woman who essentially raised me, Barbara, who was my step-grandmother. She was pretty much my caretaker. And so I'm now overwhelmed with this feeling of, and I hope this is understandable and I don't sound retarded, but like adventure or something. Like something is pertinent to my life and the people around me, and there's a story happening that I just discovered. And the story is unbelievable to me because I'm being inundated. You know, we're talking 2006, 2007. The internet was just really becoming what it is now. YouTube was not, 2001, 2002, 2003, YouTube was not it. It was barely fucking functioning. And by 2006, it was rolling, dude.
Yeah.
So not only do I have access to this brand new information via the book, but now I have Google and YouTube. So I start taking to the internet, trying to figure out what feels like this family mystery. I find out that my father also sees the same guy, right? This dude with a hat and this silhouette of a duster jacket.
Yeah.
And that should be established too. You can't see his face. He's like a solid shadow. And so I find thousands of testimonies. Even in 2006, 2007, I was able to find this. Thousands of testimonies, even a website dedicated to experiences with the Hat Man. I find out that it's a worldwide phenomenon. So a lot of people listening to this might go, well, we know about this, Raven. This is it's purely a psychological phenomenon. The body tends to render itself paralyzed so that you don't act out your dreams, which, understandably could be dangerous and disruptive, especially evolutionarily speaking. There's just so many advantages to being still and silent while you're sleeping because you're so disarmed that any predator or, opposing tribe could come and kill you. If they can find you because you're freaking, you're having a whole sleep fight and screaming and shit. So your body, it paralyzes you. And I can get behind that. But what I can't get behind is why are people in China seeing an archetype that we would describe as like maybe Western or, you know what I mean? Like the duster coat and the hat is very strange. I also find out that Wes Craven designed Freddy Krueger based off of one of his personal friends telling him a story about their sleep paralysis encounter with the Hat Man, although he didn't have the vernacular, the Hat Man, but that's why Freddy has that hat, and that's why he operates in the nightmares.
And didn't you say, I've heard you say before that some dude who created a video game in China or Japan or something has the same thing?
So, damn, I can't remember the name of that. I watched some YouTube videos on it recently, but basically some dude in Japan wanted to create a different kind of video game experience. And so he decided that it doesn't have to be enemies. It doesn't have to be goals. And what he did instead was animate in early PlayStation 1 graphics, 3D style, his own dreams. And so you are a character that's navigating his dreams. They don't really make a lot of sense. There's no goals. And sometimes you like walk up to a wall and click it, and it just brings you to the next dream. It's very abstract. It's very creepy. There's a very creepy vibe. One of the dreams that you enter is just you stood in front of the Hat Man. And I mean the image to a T. It's not like something you can interpret as the Hat Man. It is the Hat Man. And this is coming from a man in Japan.
Right.
So to say that while you're in sleep paralysis, you're kind of in a dream state partially. And so you're afraid because you're paralyzed, and that's a new experience. And it's dark. Since you're partially in a dream state, the hallucinogenic effects of dreams can still partially be, affecting you. And so maybe in the dark corners of your rooms, you can hallucinate that there is something there. I'm like totally willing to entertain all of those things. Why is that the image that is conjured? It's not a terrifying image. I can think of some shit that's a lot scarier than a dude in a hat and a duster coat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd fuck that dude up in an alley. Come on.
Exactly, dude. I'm like, you coming to my house, dude? You came to the wrong house, motherfucker. No, that's not what happened. Instead, you get struck with an unbelievable amount of fear. But, so I don't know why that... How do you compartmentalize that and put it into the psychological bucket? That doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm going down this rabbit hole, and I'm researching all these things, and I'm very logical. I've been a conspiracy theorist now for 16, 17 years, and really what I should say is that I'm just halfway decent at critical thinking, and when I see information that makes sense and plugs into my worldview, and then it all meshes together cohesively, I entertain it. I go, okay, well, that seems to make sense. It fits well. And so as I'm researching, I think very logically, like, look, man, you're going to have this experience at some point. And that doesn't mean that it's real. It just means that you're looking into it so fervently that it's going to trickle into your dream or something. You're going to have a dream or a nightmare at least. So I was totally willing to entertain that. I could not have been prepared for what actually happened. So remember when I told you that within the book Communion, Whitley was working on drawing through lines, through similar characteristics of one person's experience to the next. Yeah. That way he can kind of map out what the characteristics of a real abduction experience are like. And those include being paralyzed, seeing an inexplicably bright white light. And these don't have to happen every time, but these are often what does happen. The unbelievable feeling of fear, like dread, like mortal
Mhm.
dread. Not like, I'm telling you, the fear that you experience from this is, I can't think of anything that will provoke that feeling in me outside of this. So the fear, the paralysis, the bright white light, the presence of beings. There's also like a sort of a vibration or a buzzing sensation. These are all things that are common threads between everybody's experiences. So fast forward to one semi-homeless 17-year-old pothead, researching on the internet. And what ends up happening to me is I go to sleep one night, and next thing you know, my eyes pop open. And I'm very quickly aware that I'm paralyzed. It's kind of unmistakable.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, no, it's very unmistakable.
yeah, you're not going to think this is some other shit. So
Mhm.
as soon as it happens, when you're in this in-between state, you're paralyzed, but you're also awake. It's amazing how coherent you are. So I'm looking around the room, kind of scanning insanely with my eyes because I can't move my neck. And my internal dialogue is like, okay, we knew this was going to happen. Let's just relax, because I'm in no danger. Nothing hurts. There's no. So I'm just kind of riding it and trying to see where this goes. Suddenly, I see the shadow of a man move across the room. And as soon as that happens, my body is already paralyzed, but it stiffens up. It locks out. My arms straighten out. My knees straighten out. And there's like this really intense buzzing sensation that covers my whole body.
Mhm.
It's almost like being electrocuted minus the pain. Although I've never been I've been electrocuted before and not really had not had pain. It's just like a really intense vibration. Feels like putting your fingers on like a bass speaker or something.
Mhm.
Like I guess there's a little bit of pain.
Oh
But
yeah, it's happened to me too. I know exactly what you mean.
yeah, so it doesn't hurt, but it's very much like it feels like there's an electrical charge running through your whole body.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happens, I actually black out. I'm like forcibly put to sleep. And I come to, and all of a sudden I was laying next to my girlfriend. Her feet are now by my head. So I've switched, which is a theme, is often like my shirt was on backwards when I woke up, or I was in a different position, sleeping on the floor, something weird. I was by her feet all of a sudden, and I'm paralyzed again. And now I'm like, my very last memory was of a man walking across the room. And now all of a sudden I'm like in a different position, and I'm still trying to get my wherewithal about me, but I'm facing the closet, and the closet was just like you described, Ted, except I did have a bed sheet that like thumbtacked, into the walls to make like a drape over the closet. This is my girlfriend's room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no light switch in that closet, but still unbelievably bright white light is pouring out of that closet. And I'm seeing it, and I'm trying to think, and as I'm trying to think, boom, my body locks up again. This huge electrical buzzing starts happening, and I black out. And I wake up in the morning, and I'm on the correct side of the bed, and everything's normal, and there's just fucking nothing to talk.
Nothing's
Just
normal,
tell my
dude.
girlfriend, she's like,
Nothing's normal.
It's just that's it, dude.
I
But
know.
That's crazy.
I have these experiences, and like I said, it's the same thing that my grandmother experienced, the same thing that that Barbara experienced. My father sees them, although my father gets out of it and like walks up, and my dad has told me stories where he's gone up to this hat dude and screamed in his face and just watched him like,
"I'll fuck you up, dude."
My dad is like fucking insane. He's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
He lived in Elizabeth all his life, so but that whole, I'm telling you, the little alien thing and this story, these are the things that propelled me to where I am, because the supernatural was my gateway to conspiracies, because there's no way you're not going to start to find connecting lines when you start looking at like paranormal entities and shadow people, and then like, well, what are they? Well, that
Correct.
leads to a whole fucking can of worms that ultimately breaks wide open to just every conspiracy theory you could ever think of. So that was like those moments were like my Genesis story.
Yeah, they start you out.
Right.
So
Damn.
there's something I want to bring up to you involving the Nephilim Death Squad and all that, but there's a little bit of preface I need to say. So my wife, fucking awesome. We were talking about this Halloween episode. she was telling me stories about when she used to live in California and how she saw plates. You know how like they used to put plates up on high shelves because like decorative plates, you know, and she watched them
they'll
fly.
stand them up.
Yeah, and she watched them fly across a room and shatter and all this shit. And like, so her mom's super into crystals and all that, and you know the energy and everything. Her mom's awesome, but so her mom had a psychic or a medium come to the house, and the medium told them that there was a retarded child buried on the grounds of the property somewhere, and that's who was causing all these events. They never.
That's very specific.
I'm not saying that they ever like checked this out and found a body. I'm just saying. So this is where she comes from, a mom who does stuff like this, you know, which is awesome. I love it. They're so open-minded. Her mom, her uncle, I've talked to them about flat Earth. They're totally open to it. Just couldn't have better in-laws. But so that being said, the other day my wife is like, hey, you notice how all these people have these 12-foot skeletons? Like there's groups of them on Facebook. Like these people are like obsessed with these 12-foot skeletons.
Yeah.
She's like,
there's one down the block from me.
Yeah.
They keep it up all year round.
She's like, do you think that has anything to do with how people are naturally drawn to Nephilim? And I'm like, oh my God, I married the right woman. Holy shit.
She's asking fucking cool questions, dude.
I know. And I was like, damn, I never thought of that. So I went and checked, and like, there is like 12-foot Skelly Bob freaking like appreciation groups on Facebook and shit, man. People are serious about this. I'm like, do you think that has any relevance? Do you think?
You know what that is? That's like back in the day when the Nephilim, basically, they were like, hey, we're much bigger and stronger than you. We're going to dominate you, and you're going to worship me as a king now.
Yeah.
Those are the descendants of the people that were like, fuck yeah, I'll wash your dick.
Nope. Exactly. They're ready to worship it. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. They're like, please come back. I can't wait.
So I think it's about time for Raven to take over here. And Bill?
All right.
Raven, this is your podcast. You ask Bill about his previous work.
Let's go.
True life.
So,
I was a crematory operator.
What?
oh, what?
Swear to God.
That is the creepiest fucking job.
You-
What's a creepier
You
job
also
than that?
used to pick up bodies. Don't leave that part out.
Right, that came later. But
That's like the actual Grim Reaper job.
Yeah.
I know. I was
Dude.
I was a last responder as well. Yes.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
I'm putting myself on blast right now, just so you guys know.
You are fucking haunted, dude.
Yeah, so there you go. I was about as skeptic as they come. If there was something like being skeptical and being an asshole about it, that was me. Okay, so like whatever, dude. You know, I was that guy. Okay.
Wait, but doesn't that have to happen, Bill? Don't like in order to cope, like there has to be a sort of gallows humor.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, oh no, but this is before I got into that, right? Like,
Oh, you
this
were
was
just a dick. All right.
Oh yeah. I don't. I mean, do you think I'm a dick now? I think I'm a pretty nice guy. I don't know. I digress. So yes, a buddy of mine was doing body removal. We were in the same band.
Which
together.
go ahead and just explain what body removal is for anybody who can't.
Okay,
that together.
so when you have like the county has their corners, right, and you got to go pick up the bodies, or for funeral homes they will hire a removal service to go and collect the body after they pass and bring them either to the funeral home or to the crematory, or if they got to go to the medical examiner, you know what I mean, if it's a crime scene or something like that. So
you picked up deaths in homes and crime scenes, car accidents, stuff like that.
Right. Well, I wasn't the guy doing it at this point. So I was.
Yeah, but later on you did.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
so-
Yes. I didn't do the crime scenes though. Thank goodness, because it was hard enough picking up a baby, a stillborn.
jeez.
That was, yeah, man.
Oh.
So, yeah, woohoo, podcast. So anyway,
Kill the vibe.
yeah. So I'm sane. Just so you guys know. All right. I'm telling you, I'm sane. Okay, let's move forward. So I went with our buddy, who Ted knows. Okay, and he did body removal. So he invited me to go with him one time. We were in the middle of band practice, and he's like, "Hey, I guess you got a call. Do you want to go with me?" And it was a house call. Okay, so we were going to these people's house to pick up for a funeral home and bring it back to a local funeral home. Right?
Their family member died, and you're picking
Yes.
up the body to bring it straight to a funeral home.
Correct.
It's funny because I don't know about these things. I would assume that you would call an ambulance, but if you already know that,
Yeah, like people
they're
who have
gone.
like cancer and they're old or whatever, and they already pretty much know what caused the death, right? Bill, you know better than me. But...
Mhm. Yeah, so they're in hospice.
they're just
at that
calling
point.
Bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The arrangements are made, and it's just a matter of time. So we get there, and he, like I said, this excursion, this Ford excursion, is like all blacked out, and it's got like the stretchers in the back with this like red velvet covers and everything like that. It's like super creepy, right? Not a hearse or anything like a movie related, none of that. Most of them are actually minivans, but this was like the upper echelons, if you will.
Yeah.
So we get in this thing, and he's
Hold
blasting.
on, wait, can I just say, imagine dying and a fucking Honda Odyssey comes and picks up your corpse. How disrespectful is that?
Yeah, they were Dodge Caravans, and they were.
Come on,
pretty beat
bro.
up.
They were American, at least.
Yeah. You're going out in an Eagle, man. You know what I mean?
Call me an eagle.
So, but he's blasting like death metal, right? Like this is like, and he's all, done up, tie,
The
all
gloves
that shit.
are
And
even black. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, yes. He
Yes.
did have black
The
gloves.
latex
But
gloves
before-
are even black.
So we're hauling ass to this call, and he's got the AC blasting. I'm just like freaking out because I'd never been inside the body truck before, and I'm looking back there, and I'm like, oh my god, and he's got the AC on blast, and he's got his hand in front of it. He's like, check this shit out. You'll see why I'm doing it.
Oh my god, I forgot about this. Go.
And we pull up to the call, and we get out. He gets the stretcher, He's like, just play it cool, and I'll walk you through it. We walk up there, and he's like, hello, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so funeral homes, and we're, oh, yeah, nice to meet you. And they shake hands, and I see, this, just the color of this guy's face leave, like, because he wanted to shake his hand with a cold, dead hand. Okay, but this is the mentality that you have to have in this business, because you got to compartmentalize like crazy, dude. Like it gets a little wild, like, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But so long story short, that first call when he's like showing me how to wrap the body in a sheet, and we go to bring it over, and it rolls to its side, and you just hear, ugh, like, and I look at him. And he's not looking at me. He's continuing to wrap the body, and he's smiling, right? Like he's got this big giant grin. And mind you, the family's like just outside the room. They're not in there with us. I've done it in there with the family members before. And you want to talk about an episode.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's happened before, like strapping them down.
And they're thinking suddenly that their loved one's still alive.
Yeah. Or they just freak out, you know what I mean? Because I think the funeral homes typically told them, kind of gave them a rundown of some of the things that might happen, But so we get them on,
if
and
my grandpa died and made a sound suddenly in front of me, I think I'd start punching his corpse. Just
Oh,
because I'm not letting my grandpa come back from the dead. All right, his soul's already gone, and no greasy demon's gonna have my granddad's corpse. So I'm teeing off.
We get there, and this is like every funeral home's different. Okay, so we take him, we leave, and we're flying, dude. And he's just like, God, I think it's like, I don't know if it's Cannibal Corpse playing or something, you know what I mean? And he's just flying, and I'm just frozen, dude. I'm not saying, because right behind my seat is the body. Okay, and this is the first time I've ever experienced it, and you could feel the stretcher like hitting against the back of the seat, right, as we're driving.
Like, is he punching me? What's going on?
And so we get there, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, so he has keys to the place. We roll it out and get it around the corner. We go in the back door. Yes, it. And I heard that. you have to. It's not a living. When you see
for
things
sure.
like
Oh,
they
I
look
helped you
like-
move one. Remember? I know. It's
Oh,
super
that's
weird.
right. Okay, yes.
God,
Everybody,
guys.
come
and
on
Bill's
in.
like, you know what? I think I could do this for a living. This is fucking good.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because once we brought it, inside and everything. Now, certain funeral homes are different. You had for this one in particular, you had to strip it down completely naked, and this was a big brother, okay, a big stinky old brother, okay, and like
He had a dick on him.
I mean, yeah,
Most of them do. I know today it's a little
Dude,
different.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah,
believe it or not, the ladies at the medical examiners have rankings for those types. There's generals, there's sergeants, and such. So that's
Who
just
put
another
the
story for
baby
another
arm in
time.
his pants? Who did
Yeah.
it?
Generals and sergeants. I would hate to know that I died and didn't even get to fluff anything before.
You were a
somebody-
private or corporal,
Yeah.
petty officer.
Recruit.
I didn't even get to do like the old Play-Doh snake, kind of wake it up a little bit and shit. Just fucking.
This one dropped out of boot camp. I see.
So, and he had a diaper on, and the diaper's full of poo. Because when you die,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you give it one last go.
Death
You know
knows.
what I mean? The best one you ever gave.
Death dump, huh?
So you gotta rinse. You gotta lift the legs up, rinse them down, have them on. Oh yeah, it's like everything you can imagine has to be done, and then cover them with a sheet, and you're gone. So this all happened in about an hour's time, and I'm like,
You were just
I
at
don't even know what
band
to think.
practice, and he asked you if you wanted to go on a
Right.
trip with him.
We're writing a song, and I I brought a dead body to a funeral home, all within a couple of hours. So.
Oh my God.
He looks at me and he's like, "So you think you could do something like this?" Because they're always hiring,
Of course they are.
And I was like, "It's actually not that bad." He's like, "Yeah, he's like, out of everybody, I knew you would be the one that could be able to handle it."
Keep in mind though, they make
I
pretty.
don't know if that's a compliment.
They make pretty. They make pretty good money though. I'm just saying.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
that's-
Can you? What's the
Go ahead.
hourly wage on this? Because I gotta know.
You get paid when you're
Well-
just sitting around too.
Yeah. So I mean, it just depends. Like, it wasn't that great.
Well, when you were young,
comparison to
though.
Now, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, when you're younger and you're early 20s and whatnot, yeah, it's I think I was making like 15 as an operator, with full bends like day one.
What
Like
year would this have been? Like this is
07? Yeah.
that's not bad.
Yeah, and I think I
But
was
you
making
got
like
paid
2
when you
more.
were sitting on your ass and at practice also. They
Right,
got-
right, yeah. So you're constantly on call and you're constantly getting paid. And the bennies, dude. Like, that's how I got to get the best doctors and the best drugs. So it was all good. Like,
How often are you getting calls? Because Ted's saying you can kind of sit on your ass and get paid, but like how
some
often
nights
is that happening?
Some nights you're nonstop. Okay.
Right.
Like,
Weekends.
yeah, you're going from call to
Folks
call.
are just
and,
dropping dead.
Yeah.
yeah, and when there's a house call, 2 people from 2 different places have to meet there. Okay. You can't just be there by yourself on house call because God forbid you drop the body or something like that,
Oh God. Oh.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
not talk
yeah.
about that one.
That's never happened.
Oh, dude. Oh no.
Dude, he was like 500 pounds.
Yeah, well now you've got a fucking 500-pound ghost haunting you for the rest
That
of your life.
side story, I was okay. So there was a funeral home. It was in South Miami, and normally you got to take him up this ramp and through a little door. He wasn't going to fit there. He wasn't going up this ramp, and he was not going into that door. So I had to open the bay door. You know how on a bay door in a warehouse, there's the little divots right there before you get, that, I'll be damned if that stretcher didn't catch that divot just right. And that sucker rolled. Dude, he was so big. And it was from a house call that barely 2 of us could get him on the stretcher and strapped down. He fell over.
Can I just
he
say?
rolled.
Can I say real quick that one of the last places I lived, there was a morbidly obese man who his wheelchair, one of the wheels hit like a divot and it
Mhm.
tipped over and he fell. So I walked over to help this guy,
Mhm.
and now this is a living man who is
Right.
also trying to help himself. I mean, like, I'm a strong dude. I was like, oh my fucking God, I almost didn't get that done. Like, while I was trying to lift him, he's got an arm over my shoulder and he puts his arm over somebody else's shoulder. And then his legs are engaging for him to stand up, enough. I mean, he's in a wheelchair. They're not great fucking legs, but,
Yeah.
he's not dead weight. And I just almost barely got that done. The idea that you're dealing with, I mean, like, a regular dead person is like they're not helping you at all while you're trying to pick them up. Never mind a 400 or 500 pound dead dude. Like, how the fuck did you get him up?
I tried everything. Now at this point, while I have because the stretchers they can go all the way to the ground, So,
but that's good,
right? But it's not good when they're halfway in and halfway out, and they're strapped to the thing, right? So I had, and he's like kind of crunched in an L. So like I'm trying to move his lower half to get him stretched out, and this meanwhile, this is in the hood, bro. This is in Hialeah.
Shit.
This is in Hialeah. The door's wide open, the lights are on. People could see the inside of a crematory, okay, that they probably never knew existed was even there, because 9 times out of 10, you don't know that they are there unless you see, funeral home trucks pulling up and
they're not exactly advertising.
Right. And I'm getting a little crowd now. And, I'm looking around like, I'm not saying, hey, does anybody want to help? Because, no one's going to jump to my help. But they're like, damn, what? That's a dead body? Like, hey, man. And they're yelling for, like, and they keep backing up as they're yelling, like, hey, that's a dead body for real? Oh, hell no. Like, and it's like the crowd is kind of forming. And now I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm panicking. I can't move him, dude. There's no way. So I called the guy that I work for. He has to leave from Sunrise, which is like an hour away, dude, and go all the way down there.
You're just chilling with this grounded dead body for an hour?
Yep. Yeah, and I couldn't close the door because he was there.
So everybody's just staring at you?
Yeah, there's like the whole clique out there, and like there's
they're flipping pigeons and shit, telling other people.
Dude, and then after all of this, you were like, just not a bad job.
Yeah.
Kind of like this.
This was well after the crematory job. I thought of that because of the dropping a body thing, and I just wanted to tell that story.
Go to the crematory. The crematory gets better.
So basically, after that first call, like a week later, my buddy's like, "Hey, man, there's a job opening up. They're opening up a brand new crematory, and do you want to go? You want to try out for the job or whatever?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Because things were really slowing down, from what I was doing, which was dependent on a hurricane. And after Hurricane Wilma, I don't know if you remember that one, but after that, like things really died down and work stopped almost. And it was just this timing thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of desperate. I'm going to jump. I go there. And this dude that I interview, quote unquote, for I could immediately tell is probably psychotic. Okay. Probably. Funny, very dry humor, very emotionless, but psychotic for sure.
These are warning signs.
Yeah.
I could never do that. I can't go through a supermarket without like full hand slapping the shit out of a piece of meat. There's no way. Like if it's a big enough piece of meat, I'm gonna fucking slap it, dude. There's no way. I'm gonna say it right here. I'm the type of guy that like there's no fucking way I wouldn't just like every once in a while like jab cross. Just once in a while, just hit him with a jab cross.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
there's
you'd
no
fit
way
right
that
in.
I couldn't beat up on corpses.
I will not confirm nor deny that I had ever
What's the
witnessed
statute of limitations on that?
Yeah.
ever witnessed someone laying their hands on medical waste for the state of Florida. Okay, I will not. The bigger ones, and now, so the crematory warehouse, it vibrated quite well. There was a
There was an echo.
There was
You're
an
gonna have to
echo.
edit this
Yes.
part out.
Yeah. So I will not confirm nor deny that I ever saw. So anyway, long story short, the first day. Now, mind you, it's brand new crematory, right? So this has never been used. The retorts, which are the machines, there's 2 of them brand new, and they had to fly the guy out from Utah to come show us how to use them. Okay. So I did get hired, by the way. Yeah. I think the interview was like, "Do you breathe?" Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Will you
You'll do
promise not
fine
to
here.
slap the corpses?
yeah, right. Can you make a good cup of coffee? Okay.
Did you tell the corpses your deepest secrets?
I'm gonna tell you what. When I started doing the night shift, they were some of my best friends, man. I go in there and talk to them. You know.
You can't
This,
not.
this was
You
when
can't-
I was on tour, so Bill was lonely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're people for all intents and purposes. You're gonna.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way that you could, and I don't think that's weird at all. I would talk to him 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
stupid shit.
Oh,
You
yeah.
look like
Yeah.
a bitch, bro.
So I get the job, and now, mind you, once I'm start working there for a while, all my friends are in this. Like, there's two of the one dude I told you about. Then my other guitar player is now doing removals with him, and they're the ones bringing me the bodies to burn. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay that out for you. All right, so we're this group of like effed up dudes. All right, and we're in a band together. So, okay. The first day, the guy comes out, shows us, and he lights this thing up, and it's like it's crazy looking, It's all mechanical. It's not like the old days, like the oven, and you see him opening the thing and all that. And there's like
Oh, this is a new unit for
right,
burning bodies.
right, to the point where like the gray smoke can be smoked out and turned clear before it gets outside. Yeah, like
Oh, all right.
oh yeah, it's high
You don't
tech
want to breathe
stuff.
that in.
Right? Yeah,
You don't want to breathe in
exactly.
Tommy,
Jesus.
A chuck steak for real.
I'm
So
always picturing some steampunk.
I hope you were ready for this. I hope you're ready to air this, dude. Okay. So they roll
This is
this
fine. This
first
is your
one in.
show.
Now, this so the dude that's there, I guess, had been doing this forever. So he was at first. I'm like, this guy doesn't even know what a dead body looks like. There's no way. He's like nerdy as hell and shit. Like, no, he's like, no, go ahead, grab one. And like, so we roll this one, and it's my first day, and we're like, okay, I'm just kind of standing there, and they roll him. That you put, they're in cardboard boxes, and you use these cardboard rollers, and they go over the steel roller and hit the cardboard rollers, and they roll all the way to the back. Okay. Yes, all the way in, and it's like narrow towards the back, wider towards the front, and it's all this kind of special brick that could get super hot and not crumble or anything like that. And they close it, and they light this thing up, and there's a little viewfinder. That's all you get. You get a viewfinder that you can see in there. All right, yes, because you have to check on it, man. All right.
What's that for? What do you know if it's hot? We know if it's hot. You can tell if it's hot.
It gets better. It gets better.
Oh, God.
So it starts lighting this thing up, and he's like, "Go ahead, take a look." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Oh yeah, it looks great," And there's this talking, and I'm like, "Right, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do." And I'm looking there, I'm like, "Oh my God!" And the box is now gone. This body is just on fire, dude. Like if you walked upon a burning body that was on fire that fell out of an airplane, that's the way it looked. Okay, like
Jesus.
and the skin's melting away, all that stuff. So
Oh my God.
we step back. He's like, "All right, yeah," and they
They're
start
naked,
talking.
right? That's a stupid
Yeah.
question, but like they're naked, right?
Do you want them to
You
be
don't
naked?
have, like,
You're looking through a tiny window. Their head is to the back, so you've just got front row dong,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's
and whether or not that dong's on fire.
You ever see
It
the
doesn't
smoked
really-
sausage?
so once the body's burning on its own, then you could see full detail. But at that point, like all that's gone. But before that, it's just straight smoke because of the cardboard burning and all that, so you can't really see that.
Oh, okay.
Right.
This man's
But
got details.
Oh,
I
it's interesting.
I
because
cremated.
the
I've
cardboard would smoke it
cremated
out.
well over 1,200 bodies. Anyway, so
Jesus.
yes,
Fuck, dude.
yeah. So we were a very busy place. So
It's a lucrative
The
business.
first body, and you got to hear this.
Ask
This is a
Death.
very important part. All of a sudden, you just hear, right? Like they're talking, and this thing starts screaming. So it
What?
goes, yeah. So it hit that same air pocket that I told you guys about. It hit that, but it just popped a pinhole in it. So it starts this really high wincing kind of scream. Dude, they don't even get phased. They're laughing, talking about snow in Utah or whatever. I am like Ghost at this point, dude. I'm like, Guys,
This is
do you guys
scary.
hear that?
That's one of those sounds that you probably never forget.
It was like a siren, but like the mythical siren, like like this.
Oh, the fucking the mermaid bitches.
Yeah. He's
They're
like,
supposed to
oh,
sound beautiful, dude.
oh, really? I don't know. Yeah, from the
This was
from the
not
movie.
beautiful.
This dude's on fire. He's like, and
Oh, podcast is over.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it. That was the. So yeah,
That is
and that
fucking
it goes-
terrible, dude.
Yeah, so it goes for about a minute, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's no problem." And then, they describe the science of it and shit. I'm like, I don't give a shit about any of what you just said.
Yeah.
That dead body is screaming. Okay.
Dude, it goes against every fiber of another human's being to not try to open the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Hey, sure, he's been dead. He
Right.
was dead for the whole ride. We picked him up. He was dead. We dropped him off. He was dead. He's screaming now, and I've got to open that gate.
And to the point where the dude's like, "You good?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I wasn't ready for that, So you get used
Is
to
it not
that.
reasonable to not be good?
Yeah.
I would have
The
been.
next
good.
part. The next part. About 10 minutes later, boom!
Mhm.
An explosion.
What?
Like a bomb going off. Boom!
Yeah.
We had just left that and walked inside. You're supposed to remove the pacemaker before you put it in.
Oh, my God.
shit.
And he was trying to warn you with the screams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Get it out.
I'm in here.
Pacemaker!
Yeah.
Fuck. Did it do any kind of damage?
Oh.
No. He's like, oh yeah, you guys got to remember the tech guys. He's like, that sounded like it was a pacemaker. You guys got to remember to take those out. He's like, oh yeah, because the guy that I was working for had never cremated bodies ever. He was just a funeral director.
Oh.
So we're
So
both
what are you
doing
supposed to do? Is it like Indiana Jones and you have a ceremony where you just stick your hand right through?
Fucking, like,
No.
move it.
into his
So
heart?
only the funeral director is technically allowed to remove the pacemaker from the body prior to putting it in the retort. However, I was taught how to do that since I was going to be on my own eventually.
Yeah.
So yes,
I was gonna say,
I
you
have
know,
Putting it in the
removed.
what?
I have taken scalpels and removed pacemakers from many a body.
That's fucking
Where
crazy.
is? I'm
Do you have
actually
any
unfamiliar with
tattoos?
What's that?
What's
Sorry
it?
to interrupt. Do you have any tattoos that to signify your time when you were doing that?
Just a corpse.
Oh,
Like a scalpel.
No,
Cutting into your
they
skin.
are all engraved in my memory, sir.
Yeah.
So,
Where is a pacemaker?
it's literally
Bend over, I'll show you.
over your pectoral muscle typically, or sometimes they'll be put like more towards your chest plate. But
Oh, I
surface.
didn't know
They're
that they
on
were
the
actually
surface.
inserted.
Yeah, they're right next
the
to your
muscle, yeah.
heart, either on the left or the right side.
mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
wow.
would have figured it was in your leg.
no,
Don't
no,
pick up the pace.
the
When I get
prosthetics
a
are in
pacemaker,
there.
I want it in my dick.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sir, we've read your request, but there's just not enough room there to install it.
Not enough real estate on this dick.
Yeah.
I gave the singer of a
God,
very
man.
famous death metal band. We sent him out some prosthetics from dead bodies. He wanted them. Yeah.
Dildos
Um,
or
No, they're like prosthetic knees and hips and stuff. They're all cobalt, you know what I mean? Or
They don't burn.
porcelain. Porcelain. So they're left there once you scrape it out.
Wow. Oh, what about their? Damn, this sounds totally greasy. What about their teeth when they have gold teeth? What happens
Oh,
to
yeah.
that gold?
Typically they're already gone before the person.
Yeah,
gets
gold has a
there.
very but gold has a low
Yeah.
melting
Oh, right.
point also.
Yeah. Right. So,
Mm.
but yeah, no, that's like one of the first things. Like,
Yeah,
if-
that would never. Nobody would ever recover that. That gold.
We don't know what happened. We don't know.
Yeah, you could get like guys that are doing removal that they have to be there. Like when you are on a house call and it's like an accidental death or something, you typically there's a police officer there too, and they're watching the removal guys to make sure they don't remove the jewelry and everything's accounted for and stuff like that. There
The
was actually
wallet.
there was a missing Rolex episode that happened that I was not a part
Oh
of.
shit.
Yeah, but it was
Was
with
it
another.
found?
Yes, and somebody was
Was it
charged for that.
nefarious?
Yes,
Oh.
somebody was charged for that. But
Well, what the
I
fuck?
digress.
What does he have to tell time for?
Caught slipping, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to you take a scalpel and you cut open the muscle and you take out the pacemaker. It's usually now on the bigger ones, you're digging a while. On the
Oh my
bigger
gosh.
Oh yeah.
I do want to say another thing that I don't understand, besides you being like, this is a lucrative business that I'd like to be a part of. The other part that I don't understand about you, Bill, is you spend an incredible amount of time around corpses, and then rather than move toward like you're like, you know what, man, this is really creepy, and the screams of the dead, they haunt my dreams. But I do think that I'd much rather focus on flat Earth as opposed to like the afterlife spirituality. I would have thought that would have been an express route to like you being like, yeah, dude, I'm obsessed with the afterlife or something like that. That's really interesting
dude.
the way that played
Tell
out.
him how you got here,
Flat Earth.
how it led to this, Bill.
What was that, Rufus?
Oh, I say flat Earth's just a distraction.
It's a psyop,
From the
bro.
afterlife.
From the real epidemic.
Yeah, flat spiritual realm.
So that anyway, long story short, there were times in that crematory when I started going on my own. At first I was doing daytime and all that, and it was totally different. There was one daytime episode that I want to talk about, and it's 100% real. Our walk-in cooler was huge, dude. When I tell you huge, it's probably the size of like a smaller house up north. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like those smaller, typical, like.
You're spending time here alone at night?
Oh, that was when I started my night shift that went from 12 to 8.
Fuck that.
I did the 12 to 8. Yeah. And the 3 o'clock thing is very real.
Fucking
yeah.
gross,
Yeah,
dude.
very, very real.
With a walk-in cooler like that, I hope you had a couple kegs with you. Coke with it.
Oh, I'm not gonna talk about the usage.
The statute
That
of
was-
limitations.
So yeah. Side note, there was one time where my buddies came in after doing a house call. They're both together. They're like, yo, make them bounce, dog. And they're like using the yeah. He was a big boy and he had some man boobies on him, and they were using the crane thing and making him bounce a little bit. Like, get it, dog, get it. Yeah,
Picking up a dude with a crane. I don't want to
that
be
video
that's
still exists, by the way, and I have seen it recently.
Oh,
Just throwing that out
dude
there.
getting removed with a crane.
No. It was so we had these little like forklift kind of thing that you would go up and down. You walked with it in and out on the rollers. So you roll the bodies on, you know what I mean, these rollers, and they come in and out. The little forklift thing had its own rollers, so
Just
you
put him on a pallet jack.
that's
much.
basically what it is. Yeah, basically what. Yeah. So, but they, like make them bounce. Anyway, like yeah, hydraulics. So
my god.
yeah, so you really gotta compartmentalize. And
Yeah, no, dude,
there was a
I
few
get
times.
it 100%.
Yeah, there was a few times when I was like, "Oh my god!" and it would hit me what I'm doing, and it was typically when I was removing a pacemaker. That would really come to terms with what I'm like. What am I doing with my life? I swear to you.
So
And,
the
it
daytime
was very-
haunting. What happened there?
Yes, sorry, I digress. So the cooler, brand new cooler, right? And we'd only been doing this a couple weeks. We're inside the office, and we're waiting because there was about 2 hours wait per body typically. If they had cancer, it was a little longer. But in this 2 hour wait, you just hear boom, 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 boom.
Whoa.
Now, yeah, we're in the office, which is separate from the warehouse part, okay? And you got like a prep room and everything in between that. And it's on the other side of this giant warehouse, okay? And just boom, 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 boom. And we both, he's like, so you heard that? I'm like, yeah, I'm in the main room. He's in the office. We both get up, go in there. We thought it was, like a pacemaker went off or something in there, and it made a blown up or blown a prosthetic inside the retort or something, making all this noise. And we go in, and there's nothing. It's dead quiet. And it's probably maybe 3, 4 in the afternoon towards the end of the day. And that place is quiet. Okay. And besides the sound of the retorts. So he's like, what do you think? I'm like, well, maybe it was outside, because I know a couple of times that the garbage truck would startle me because we had the dumpster right out there. So you know how they like go gagoon, gagoon, gagoon. It was similar, but it was not the same sound. Not the same sound. This was like like multiple. We go in to the walk-in, and we're just kind of walking around. He's like, "That's pretty weird." He's very docile, dude. Very weird, just quiet. Like, it's probably nothing, you know. Whatever.
In the freezer?
Yeah. He walks out. I'm towards the back. I turn around, and there's handprints all inside the door of the freezer.
No way, dude.
I can't make this shit up, dude.
So gross.
Mind you, I'm still a skeptic at this time. Okay, like I'm still.
Does he see it?
No.
The dude that you went in there with, does he see it?
He already left.
No, he'd already walked away.
Oh,
now
fuck.
you don't put your hands on this to close it. There's big, giant aluminum handles. Okay, like door handles that the slides, open and close to the right, to the left. Okay, so this thing, the handprints are now. Oh, that's another thing. It closes on its own after a while, and that's how I noticed. Is because it slowly started making its way back, and I saw the handprints. The handprints were on the inside of this giant door that the only way you could do it from is being on the inside of it. Okay? Like, it correlated in my head immediately. That's exactly what I heard because there's like the same number of handprints on the damn thing. Okay?
Oh, so the sound... Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
$15 an hour?
It was a start. It was my
No.
start. I made quite a bit more after that, but yeah. So this is where I'm at, right? And I'm like, okay, and this is weeks after the whole screaming incident, and I'm like, I guess, but now this is 2008. So put that into perspective. Everybody else I know is losing their jobs. Everybody else I know is all going through this stuff. And mine, they're dying again.
Recession proof. Yeah.
I'm recession proof.
You've
10
got
out of
job
10,
security.
10 out of 10 people die. It's the realest statistic you'll ever know. Okay.
Those
So I'm
odds
like,
are in your favor.
I gotta go through this. I gotta do it. And well, I did that for about a year and a half. And things were going really good with the band, actually. And there were many other episodes. Oh, I did forget one that there was definitely a corner of the of the warehouse where all the shadows would leave the retort, go up the stem, and then shoot over to one certain corner of the.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
normal.
Now, so by this time you have to understand that now I'm like, okay, well, this is real. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with ghosts and shit like that. So I went from a complete and utter skeptic dickhead to, okay, I am in it now. I am in the business. Now there are certain things that we did, like, oh, he's got a nice tie. I'm gonna take that. I mean, hey, I'm not gonna lie.
What is he gonna do with the tie, dude?
Right.
It's going to be burned in 5 seconds.
He's going in a fucking in a furnace.
I had this little thing about like certain like pins, very cool pins. Okay,
Cool
on check,
pins.
and ties. So I had a little bit of a collection at the house. Probably screwed up with that.
Did you get rid of that collection? You should probably get rid of that collection.
I did after the episode that I will get to very shortly because I know we're pressed on time. And I told you this was long. Okay. So fast forward, the band's happening. Even the CFO of the company is like, hey, look at this. The guy's band's in the paper, and he shoots it out to everybody's emails and stuff like that. He comes and sits with me, gives me an opportunity. He's like, look, do you want to go open a crematory for us in Denver? Or do you want to go on tour? Because he knew that we were planning a tour. Yeah. He knew we were planning a tour.
Am I wrong? Is that seems like a dick
No.
move?
He
It's like,
talked
hey,
to
do
me
you want
out. He talked me out of doing the thing in Denver. He's like, I've listened to your band. The CFO of the company sitting there. He's like, I think you should go on tour.
Okay, I take it back. That dude's a fucking gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Well,
Very
lo
cool.
and behold, the thing in Denver never ended up happening, and that's just another story for another time.
Right,
But
for if my boss was ever like, "Fucking dude, stop welding shit and go like chase your dreams,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "I don't make any money off my dreams, so I have to stay here." To work."
so I took a leave of absence, which was crazy for me. I didn't even know I could take that. And they're like, "Yeah, just go ahead, man. You're good, dude. You got our support." I mean, what are they gonna do? They got them lining up around the corner to take my job, right? No. So there and so we go on tour. Now I've taken a leave of absence. I've left this. We go on tour, and we're in Newtown, Connecticut. Little did I know, this is one of the most haunted places in
Yeah.
America.
Yep.
I just knew that. I was like, that place is haunted as fuck.
Yeah.
That's just what came to my mind.
I didn't
I just
know.
fucking knew that.
Keep in mind, now
Connecticut.
we're all three of us are in the dead business. We're not thinking about shit like this. We're
The
laughing
dead
at that.
business.
We're all showing videos of like the cool coffins and we burn and shit. You know what I mean? Like there's like this thing. So we did a show and I'll never forget it. We were in Newtown and then we went to a Red Roof Inn afterward. And that night we go to sleep. And this was the first time I had ever experienced sleep paralysis, like you were talking about.
Ooh.
So yeah, and a shadow person at the end of the bed.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah,
That was 100% one of the dudes whose tie you took.
Yeah.
I don't know, or his pissed off teenage son,
You
because this is like a
son of a
teenager.
bitch.
The silhouette was like a teenager. Okay, so we're all tired that night, and you know you get tired from all being on the road and shit like that. So I'm automatically thinking when this first happened, I wrote it off as like, oh, I was just overtired or whatever, right? But no, I remember it vividly. I remember going to sleep, right, or falling asleep with the TV on. There was a show on. We were all laughing, but I was one of the first to fall asleep. And I remember that my bass player was sleeping on the other bed opposite me. You know what I mean? So there was like a person to the left of me in the same bed, and then there was a person opposite of him in that other bed. So, but you know how you have the dresser in between you? So we were facing each other, right? I fell asleep and then woke up to that in the middle of the night thing, sleep paralysis shit, I guess. Frozen, locked up, everything you talked about, everything. But the TV was just static. He was on his laptop when I fell asleep, and he was still on it when I woke back up, but I was only looking to the side of me, and his screen was like static, like old white TV static. You know what I mean? Like the old snow look.
Was he still awake?
Yes.
Oh, dude.
I could not see anybody else. I could not look to the left of me. I could not look behind me or anything because I was stuck. Okay. And I couldn't see the person that was on the other side of him. The whole room was black. The only part that was lit up was that part of his bed where he was laying and the part where I was laying. And I'm like looking straight out at this thing standing at the front of the bed, this shadow, this silhouette, and it has a hat on backwards. I could tell because it's kind of cocked to the side a little bit, like a teenager, but no face. I couldn't make out the actual clothing details, nothing like that. It was just standing there looking at me of the TV, that vibrational sound you were talking about in my ears from my body locked up. I'm in terror, dude. I'm like screaming inside, trying to get John's attention, who was next to me, the bass. I'm like, just I couldn't get it out. Nothing. And it goes away, and I wake up, and time had not moved since the time I went to sleep the first time. Like,
Was the TV static anymore?
no, everything was on. Like, maybe 5 minutes had gone by in reality, but in mine, it was like the longest 10 minutes ever. Okay,
Right.
I don't.
When you say he was still awake and on his laptop, but his laptop was static,
Mhm.
typically these things are so jarring, right, that it's like hard to take in details. Was he like looking at his laptop?
Yes,
Was he
yes,
seemingly
he was on
functioning
it
normal?
and yeah, but frozen.
Could you
Almost
see
like
his face normal?
No, I couldn't
Yeah.
see his face because he's looking. He kind of was like
That's what I
leaning
thought.
up on his
Faces are
arm.
hard on.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you lean to your side and you're on your elbow and you're kind of looking at, you know what I mean? That's what he was doing. But he was facing the computer screen, so I can only see the silhouette of his face,
Yeah.
like lit off of the computer screen. Okay. So it was real weird. And I couldn't turn my head, so I can only see what that basically the computer screen and like the reflection of his face, but it wasn't his face. It was just like the outline of one, if that makes sense.
And it wasn't a black baby.
You know,
Definitely
maybe
a
it was the
black
same
Now
one
that
and he
you
had grown
mention
up.
it,
He was now a
As a
teenager.
matter of fact, he was the size of a toddler and really, really ashy.
So yeah, that was the most terrifying thing, and I didn't talk about it with anyone.
I've never even heard this
It's
story.
wild. How do you
Dude, I
not?
wouldn't either.
So that night,
Dude, I would be
just,
like, fuck it. I never had any reservations telling people like the crazy. So I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, but like basically the idea is when we're in a sleep state, we're kind of there's a line in the Bible where we're called living portals and or living doorways or living gateways.
Well, don't you release
I think that-
DMT while you're sleeping too, or is
Yeah, and they say with dimethyltryptamine that you go to a reliably consistent place. In other words, if I do it and then Rufus does it, we'll come back with the same descriptives, not only about the things that we communicated with, but the way everything looked, as if you're going to a consistent realm. And one of my earlier guests, Paul of Understanding Conspiracy, he did the Nephilim clown connection. He talks about how if you take DMT, basically it's like you have a rug, right? And the rug represents this realm. But if you lift the rug up and look underneath, there's all this like hashing and stitching and everything that makes up the rug. Well, it's like when you go to the DMT realm, you're going into this realm that is basically, excuse me, the underside of the rug. But I think that the concept of the upside down of like Stranger Things, I think that is significantly more real than people would like to imagine. And I think that parallel to our realm, there is one that looks very, very similar, but is darker. And the thing that makes me feel like you went there is I have heard so many testimonials about the static in particular. I've heard of entities entirely made of static. And I wonder if that's just, I got a TV over here, so I'm looking at it like a psychopath. I wonder if that's like, you know, if you're watching The Crocodile Hunter and the upside down is happening simultaneously. Well, like those greasy demons don't get to watch The Crocodile Hunter. They just get static. And there's something inherently creepy about static.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like,
sure.
think about how it's used as a mechanism in so many horror films.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And I often think
it's
that
the
those
frequency
mechanisms.
of it. I think
Yeah,
it's the
maybe that's what
frequency
it
of
is.
100%.
And I think that like that's a channel. I know like the ghost hunters and all those, they like to use that sound to channel that frequency, right, and pick up on those voices and stuff like that. Or you hear people talking about they heard voices through static.
Yeah, they have those boxes that scan all
yes,
the frequencies, and it's just, and then
Yeah,
it picks something up.
People
Yeah,
try to-
Spirit box.
yeah,
right?
that's what it is. Yep.
So
They try to put themselves into sleep paralysis with the white noise.
really,
Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. I've heard that. So people will do.
Wow. I did not know
this is
that.
not a recommendation, but people will do
You
fucking
think?
Benadryl.
I mean,
Put
it's
on-
not bad. It's kind of fun.
Well,
We're learning so much about death today.
I told you
Yeah,
all
she's
my
really
stories
opening
involve drugs.
I'm telling you though, the creepiest element of your story is that whole like. Do you feel like time was? Because I mean, yeah. So there's a time dilation issue.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's this
100%.
static.
Mhm.
It's like you went to this realm that people describe where like time doesn't really fucking matter there. And it's very similar to our realm, except for two key components. One is it's not, and two is they live there.
Yeah.
Like other things live there.
That
fucking
dude
bizarre,
or
man.
whatever it was letting me know that that's where he was, that I'm in his spot.
Right.
Just so you know, you better respect my room because this is my. That's
Really,
the
that's the
feeling.
impression that you got?
Yeah. Like just so you know, I'm here. Okay.
Huh.
Now, I didn't put two and two together of me doing my little collectibles and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was opening myself up to. I mean, look what I was doing, dude.
Yeah.
I'm opening myself up to a world, okay, that exists beyond this one. Okay. I firmly believe that now because of the experiences I've seen these shadows flying out of that retort. I saw that shadow at the end of my bed. And I have no reason to make it up. It's not cool.
Yeah.
I was burning dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's insane.
No.
You see what I'm saying?
I
Like,
think
there's
one of
nothing
the-
cool about that. You know?
One of the biggest disservices that we're experiencing right now is like, you know, the church isn't doing it. And the only thing we have is like Zach Braggs or whatever his name is. Who
Yeah,
does
Zach
fucking,
Bragg.
you know, ghost hunters. It's like
Mhm.
we
He's all
are,
taunting 'em.
especially in the Western world. Yeah. People call him Scooby Douche, which I think is fucking
Yes.
hilarious.
That's actually
So
really
good.
funny. That's
Holy
actually
crap,
really
that's
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
But we don't have any sort of sound source of defining these spiritual realms. And it just sucks because you go through life in denial about their existence, and then if something should happen to you where it's like, oh, definitively there is another realm or there is something that we can't see, it's not as tangible as physical life is, but there is something there that may be more real than, you know, the fucking cups in your cupboard. But where do you go after that?
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, who do
Yeah.
you lean on to try and define some of these things for you? There's really not. And
Mhm.
cultures used to have apparatus built all around the afterlife, and it was something that you would spend your entire life being accustomed with, to the point where it wasn't a mystery. You just go like the ancient Egyptians, so that your soul traveled to the stars and went past Orion's belt and took a fucking left at Saturn. Like, they had a legitimate thing that they believed happened. We don't have shit.
Right.
You
Well,
know, we
yeah,
don't
because
know
now if they
anything.
acknowledge an afterlife, they have to acknowledge God, they have to acknowledge a creator, they have to acknowledge all of that, and they can't do that.
There's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So
You guys
definitely.
need to understand that there's a part 2, and I'm going to keep it really short. But there was a continuation of this, and you just need to hear it because my wife can even back me up on this because she was there for it. It did happen again, okay? But in my house when I got home from
The
tour.
sleep paralysis.
Yes. And this time, dude, that's why I'm so blown away when you were doing your description, Raven, about the entities flying around. That's exactly what happened to me the second time. Okay. And I was screaming. My wife was next to me, and I was like, and she couldn't hear me, but she felt me moving, like I guess shaking or something. Looked over and saw the terror in my eyes, dude. And I'm like looking up, and these things are flying all around me, dude. And this is like maybe a couple of weeks after, maybe a week and a half after I got back from that same tour. Okay.
Damn.
I'm
Did
not.
she wake you up?
She's like shaking me. I'm like, and to the point
But
where
she
like
woke you up.
right, that she was shaking me, and then my voice box started working as she's shaking me, and then then I pulled the covers over both of us. I'm like, they're out there, they're here for me. I don't know why I said that, but
shit.
that's exactly what dude, I can't make this shit up, man. You know,
What do you remember seeing?
it literally looked like the little cartoon ghosts that fly around. You know what I'm talking about?
Like Casper.
Yeah, but not like Casper cartoon, like the ones that you see like Halloween decorations that are like they're like projections.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like shadows.
Like a sheet.
Yeah, but not sheets. They were just black shadows.
Like
Right.
translucent kind of.
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Like if you had one of those like little globe-looking things that shot out
You ever
shadows.
see the Mummy with
Brendan
dude,
Fraser.
Is it Brendan
Yeah,
Fraser?
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it long.
And there's like this scene. It might have been the second one. There's this scene where he's getting like aspects of his soul snatched by these like whooshing black silhouettes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly how they looked. That is exactly how they looked. Thank you. That is the best way to
No,
describe
thank
it.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
I just
dude.
watched that movie last night with my son. It's
Are you
fucking
serious?
amazing. The Mummy. It's so good. The Mummy is amazing.
Yeah, it's been years, but like, yeah, that's
It's a really
so
good
crazy that you described it. That's exactly how it is. And they were all around, shoom, shoom, going like, and again, I could only move my eyes, but I didn't. I just all I wanted to do was get under the covers, and I couldn't. And it was just
Do you remember
fear.
like
It's
the
fear,
state
dude.
that you were in during this like period of your life? Was this like turmoil? Were you anxious? Were you like depressed or angry? Or because it sounds like, based off
I
of the whole
was
touring
very
thing, like
Yeah, so on the road, I did have a breakdown. We were in Wisconsin, and I don't know if you've ever been out in the middle of Wisconsin, but it is just crap.
But what about the
Sorry,
cheese,
guys.
bro? What about the cheese?
Cheese everywhere.
I'm sorry, whoever's listening. It's
What
just,
about that sweet cheese, dude?
I guess no. This freaking cornfields are nothing.
Yeah, it's
And
it
I'm
can
there, and I haven't showered in days, and I miss my wife, and I gave up my job, and all this stuff, and I blew my voice out to like the manager of the bar and like the bartender the night before.
Let me just
Like,
pause
nobody showed up.
real quick, just for anybody who's never been on tour, who has these fantasies of what it's like to be on a tour, that you're in this giant bus and you're just fucking seeing the world. It's nothing like
Filled
that.
with dude farts.
You're driving all the time. You're sick half the time because you're not eating properly. The only thing you get is Taco Bell, and I was vegan at the time. So at 2 a.m. when a show's over, you're eating a fucking bean burrito or something from a gas station. You're never healthy. You're never in your right mind. You never sleep well. You go days without showering. And I was on Warped Tour, and this is exactly the same as it is. It is not what you think. So, sorry,
Yeah.
continue,
I would
Bill.
imagine too, you're not having like good wholesome moments.
No,
like you're
man.
in this one mode, right, where you're king of the fucking castle and you're getting a disproportionate amount of like attention that's
exactly,
feeding your
yes.
potentially destructive ego. You're not hugging your mom and, you know, fucking watching the sunset or anything. You're not having these sort of beautiful moments. You're just having like chaos and admiration, disproportionate admiration,
crazy.
too.
And I
Like,
will
I feel like
say,
you would never be able to look at people again the same
dude,
way. I'd be like,
when I
disgusted
came
by
home
people.
from tour and you would go somewhere, you'd be like, why the fuck don't these people care about me? Like, because when you're on tour,
Oh, shit.
everybody you meet, their job is to make you feel important. So then when you come home and nobody gives a fuck about you and nobody cares if you feel important, you're like, what the fuck's going on here, man? It's like, it's definitely
that's
a
gotta
disconnect.
create some real
Right. And
Yeah.
I think but it's weird because, and I'm not quite certain on this one. I think it was the same tour, but I broke down afterwards. Okay. So after the first incident in Connecticut. Yeah. Because then we were shooting west because it was like a full US deal. So we went up to we went up to New England area and then shot over west and went to LA. But we did a show in Wisconsin. But anyway, but yes, you're playing to nobody. You're very far from home. It was the first time I'd ever been on tour, and I was a late bloomer with that shit too. So a lot of these guys do it when they're like early 20s and stuff like that. I'd already gotten married.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd already done these.
That's hard, yeah.
Yeah. So like and there was this as a joke, but I always say it is like we did one in Indiana actually a little before that. And I think that's when I broke down was these group of girls walked by. We did this kind of show. There was a lot of people there, you know what I mean? But they're like, oh, check out Still Chasing the Dream there.
Grandpa.
Yeah, that one burned a bit. I'm not going to lie. And I will never, ever forget that because they said it just loud enough for me to hear it.
She's listening right now, and she's got 4 kids by 4 different husbands. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Look at me now, bitch.
Yes, I'll never forget that. Check out Still Chasing the Dream. It's like, oh God, that was so brutal. Yeah, so there were, you know what? It's funny you bring that up because there were things that were really eating at me, you know, but I gotta say, the crematory thing was a big deal. And I have a feeling that maybe I pissed off the wrong person or something. I kept something that I shouldn't have.
Yeah,
Oh.
and maybe you would.
Oh, my wife's
I heard
over
it.
there pointing. Oh,
I
wait,
heard
there was a hoodie? Sorry,
Oh.
What is it?
get over here. Come over to the mic. real
Yeah,
quick.
come
to the
over
mic.
and talk.
Come over to the mic. Hurry.
I won't say your name,
All
but
right,
come
all
over
right,
and
just
talk.
say-
All right. He took a guy's fucking carton of cigarettes and he took the freaking the sweater blanket and everything that he was,
Oh, the Snuggie.
yeah,
The Snuggies?
A
You're a
Snuggie.
scumbag.
You can't take a man's snuggie, dude.
Dude, you can take
That's
my
one of
job,
the 5
you can take
sacred
my
things.
wife, but you can't
In
take
my life, it goes in this order: my son, my wife, my dog, my snuggie. Don't touch my fucking snuggie, dude.
And come to think of it, it might have been the same height as that dude. I don't know. I don't know.
Man. We
But,
can't be friends anymore.
Joking aside, like I was open to these things now. Okay. And I was always kind of, and Ted can back me up on this. I kind of have like this thing where I can, pick up on
He
stuff.
sees some shit coming. I'll vouch to that. He sees some shit coming.
To the point where it's annoying sometimes.
Yeah, I can vouch for that too.
Yeah, well, I think what we don't focus on is like, yeah, we're flesh and blood, but we're spiritual too.
Yeah,
And
but he'll
you can choose to ignore it all you want.
Yeah, he'll tell me shit like, dude, this isn't going to work out. Like, shut the fuck up. Let me just try, man. Come on. It's not going to work.
Lo and behold. Let me make my own mistakes.
Yeah. I'm a grown-ass man. Come on.
So I've always kind of dealt with that, and it was more of a curse than a gift.
It took me years to believe him. I'll just say that. Because, come on, let's just all be honest here. If you had a fucking friend who was like, dude, I see shit coming, you'd be like, shut the fuck up. You're retarded. Seriously. So I did not come upon it lightly, but I can say at this point, if he tells me some shit, even if I call him retarded in a conversation, it's in the back of my head that I should probably listen to it. I'm just saying.
Well, do me a favor if Bill ever fucking decides that there's something worth saying about me. One DM away. Don't let me step in dog shit and not fucking hook me up.
No, I'll let you know, man.
So there you go. There's my story.
So basically, you're a thief.
How many years has it been since that?
I'm a thief.
Yeah, basically, the moral of the story
boils down to you're a grave robber. Let's just be honest.
Take it from dead people.
Oh,
That's
man.
the worst, dude.
Yeah, I actually so when we got back, I didn't want to go back into the business, and I don't know if it caught it before, but I did mention that picking up in stillborns and stuff like that was really hard. There was really good moments too, because families would still go there to see their loved ones get put into the retort. They had a video system, they had all these things set up that way, for a viewing prior to, and they would thank you, and you are so kind, and we don't know how you do it. You know what I mean? There was a dignity to it. There is.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
My own grandfather.
People in this retort.
My own grandfather was his wishes,
God,
and I'm
that's
saying this
right.
out here, and I don't, you know what I mean? Because I have nothing to hide,
Yeah.
and it was one of the most brutal, but like reality states I can't even explain it, but like it was a wake up call.
Just
at
be
that
clear,
point for
you
me,
put your
right?
own grandfather in the thing. That's what you're saying.
Yes,
right?
that was his wishes, though. He made sure and got my family around and asked them, I don't trust anybody but you. What was I supposed to say?
No, I would do it too. I'm just saying I wanted
Yeah.
people to know that that's what you were saying.
But to go back to what I
it's
first
an
said,
honor.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
to go back to what I first said, it didn't even look like him. When your soul leaves the body, when your life leaves you, you don't look the same. Okay? And I got to see him when he was there and then when he wasn't.
Yeah.
That was a soulless, like, just corpse, and it didn't even look like him.
Like a
So
husk.
it was like it wasn't that hard to do at that point. You know what I mean? It was harder bringing him there when
Yeah.
he first passed. That was the hardest part.
Like while he
Right.
was alive, when he asked to see it, you mean?
Right? No, when he first passed,
Oh,
he
okay.
immediately passed, and then everybody got to say their goodbyes and everything. Then we had to take him.
Yeah.
I went with them to take him
It's crazy.
and placed him in there.
And I
Yeah.
will say
Yeah, I
from
think
it,
that's probably good though. There's a
Oh,
lot of
it's
people that
awesome.
don't get to have those moments.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. But
better
there
than
was
a
a couple of
stranger.
family members that didn't take lightly to it. They weren't they weren't on board with it or whatever. But later in life we had to talk about it and they understood. But long story short is that was the beginning, I think, for me to really open myself up and to allow these things to just happen when they did, because there was many other times that it happened. Many. But when they did, I slowly began to control it better. And it's funny, after that incident, a friend of my wife's, the very last time when it happened with my wife, she did have a spiritual person, like Ted was talking about with his mother-in-law. She was very into crystals, and she does Reiki. She's a Reiki person, all that, and came out and did the whole salt around the place, did all this stuff, and burned the sage, burned the sage, and did everything like that. And from that point on, in that particular place where we lived, there was absolutely nothing, and it was calm, and I never slept better.
That's just crazy. I will say my guy who brings me herbs for cooking and stuff of that nature, he's
Very
a Reiki
important to have
master.
a herbs guy.
Yeah. And one day I want to talk to him. He's actually a graffiti artist, and he's just an awesome dude. But he's a Reiki master also, and he's got some crazy stories. So one day we'll talk about that.
Thank you for hearing my story.
I will say, from a totally outside perspective, somebody who wasn't in that field, one night Bill convinced me to come hang out with him at work. And we moved a body from the walk-in cooler onto the thing. And I didn't look in or anything, but I will tell you that moving the dead body that was in a walk-in cooler, it didn't feel like moving a regular body, like if you picked up a person. It literally felt like an ice cube wrapped in Jell-O, wrapped in cellophane or something. Like, you could feel the solid parts, but the skin, like, not so much.
That's a really upsetting description.
No, that's the only way I can think of to describe it. It didn't feel like you were picking up
like a movie prop would.
Probably. Yeah, like it didn't feel like it was real. None of it felt real. None of it. Like seeing a dead body, seeing it go on the thing, seeing it loaded on and sliding, none of that felt real at all.
More of like an object at that point.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Bill said, once the soul leaves, it's, my uncle passed not long ago, and when I went to go see his casket, it was open casket. It was bizarre.
Yeah, that's
right. It just didn't look like him at all. It looked like an empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're all antennas for whatever is up above, and whatever comes down and is powering this meat suit, basically. I don't know any other way to describe it. Like, once that's gone, none of this matters. So I'm just saying here on record, when I die, burn me up, put me in a burlap thing, and place me under a tree and plant a tree on top. Like, I don't want a funeral. I don't want a tombstone. I don't want any of that. Return me to the earth.
I want
and just let me go.
Bill has to bring me to the crematorium.
It'll be
if I still have connects there, we'll do it, dude.
I'll burn you
You're
up.
You're only allowed to slap me like a hunk of meat 3 times, and if I get one more slap, dude, I'm haunting you.
I'm haunting. 3 is the magic
Fair enough.
number.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Fair
Three's
enough.
fair.
So I know there's way more stories you have, Raven, and I'm sure we'll have you back. But we're at 2.5 hours now, and you know how people's attention spans are. So if there's anything else, I wanted to say it in the beginning, but go ahead and tell everybody where to find you, where your links are, all that.
Oh, yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter. You can search up the Ravens Watch. My handle is @David_Lee_Corbo, which is, I don't know why I selected that. Like, nobody's ever going to fucking remember that. But you can find me there on Twitter. I interact mostly on there. You can find me on Instagram as well, on the Ravens Watch, and on YouTube, Rumble, and wherever you get your audio podcasts.
Spotify.
The Ravens
also.
Watch and Spotify.
That's where I listen to
you.
You
can find that will have Nephilim Death Squad under it. I also do a show called Timeline Riff. And so it's the Ravens Watch, Timeline Riff, and Nephilim Death Squad. You can find that all on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff.
Represent
And it's
Nephilim
awesome.
Death Squad. We are part of that.
sir.
One day we'll be on with you.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
So-
I heard there's a rumor that one of the stipulations is that we may have to show our face. Who knows? Maybe
One day.
Yeah, well, I
Maybe.
mean, when you hang up, I want to talk to you guys about that real quick, but we'll talk about
Yep.
that.
Right.
off air.
So Death, fade it out. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming. We will talk to you.
Hey,
for
Dev,
having me.
can you do me a favor because I'm an idiot and I said my real name? Can you grab
I
that?
got it. I already got
Did
it.
you? I didn't
Like,
even
I
notice.
I saw it, dude. I saw Raven get so excited. He's like, woo!
I didn't even notice. Damn, that's crazy. I should pay better attention. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening. We out.